Oh, I think I may have actually stayed live this time. Everything went very wrong first time round. Hey, LP. It was indeed talking about an endoscope. I skipped it. Oh, dear. I got no plan today. Absolutely no plan whatsoever. Maybe. Well, hopefully it's a yes. Oh, dear. How's your Friday going, LP? Hope it's going well. You had to refresh? I haven't dropped any frames this time. And my bitrate seems to be remaining constant this time, which it didn't the first time. So hopefully we're somewhere now. Twitch has got issues. Oh, God damn it. Oh, dear. Not just watching numbers like a hawk. That's not fun. That's not fun for anybody. Oh, dear. I spent this morning setting this table up so I can try and do Lego and stuff going forward. I also picked up Age of Wonders 4. Age of Wonders 4? Which we can try next week as well. The real-time strategy, yes. Well, no, it's a 4 times, right? I can check. I've got nothing on my main monitor because I haven't got a game loaded up or anything. Yeah, Age of Wonders 4. Pretty sure I played some of the earlier ones. I did. I have Age of Wonders 3 and Age of Wonders Planetfall. I knew I played a few of them. Not a fan of the Weird Al poker, eh? It was. Still is. It was like 20, 30% off, something like that. And then I had some Steam credit gifted to me, so ended up being like really cheap for me. So I picked it up. Something to try. We'll also be trying next week because I got a key given to me. Oh, fuck. What was it called? Dwarven Realms? No idea what to expect from that. They said it was an action RPG, so I'll give it a go. We can go back to Sniper Elite, see if I can finally get to the Guernsey level. Now that I don't have to worry about Game Pass running out. Oh, dear. But yeah, sorry, I've literally got no plan today. I lost track of time. I was just going to load up Overwatch 2, but I really didn't want to. We may still play some Overwatch 2. I honestly don't know, but... Now, if people are around and want to play Overwatch 2, that's different. I'll happily play it then. But, oh, dear. Yeah. If I'm just waffling, what are we waffling about? Yeah, so I was, like I said, I was working on cleaning up this table. One, it's full of crap. Two, I've got to get cameras and microphones over to it if I want to be able to use this one. Optimus will be next week. Yeah, I may do it Thursday, Friday, and have music on both days. because I doubt I'll get it done in one 4-hour session. We'll see. I'm going to stick to my schedule hours wise, right? Monday to Friday, 1 to 5, whatever it is I do. These are probably things I should know. But content wise, I'm not just going to, like, I normally play games, and then if I'm going to do something different, I'll do it on a Friday. But I'm probably not going to stick to that going forward. If we can find games I like, fine. Well, yes. So, I mean, it's a waffling stream, so I guess we can talk about this, right? So, 2023, in many ways, has not been a great year for me. Like, I haven't put a lot of content out. I started doing writing again, but I never really finished anything. Money-wise, everything just kind of went off a cliff, right? Inflation went up. My doctor's bills went way up. It wasn't a very good year, but I think what 2023 has been good for me anyway is mental health and just health in general. I've tried very hard this year to do a lot of this is not a good song to talk about this about, but it's fine. But yes, so 2024, I think it's got to be content stuff, right? Oh dear. This is a very attention-stealing song, but it's Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, so of course it fucking is. Yeah, it's been like I talked about it a little bit more in Slice of Cake, and I'll probably do another Slice of Cake just going into the new year. Kind of go through it. I feel like I'm just coming out of a 15-year depression cycle. Which is kind of crazy to state, but I think it is true. Yeah, and of course, with streaming, I mean, just this week, how much Overwatch 2 have I streamed? And I really, it's not that I hate Overwatch 2, but I don't, it's not that I don't enjoy Overwatch 2. I don't like it as much as I stream it. It's literally a easy game to stream, right? Oh, what's Den of Wolves? So I feel like 2023, I've kind of turned the corner that way. I feel I'm getting a lot better at not letting people drag me down, which is good. Call it selfish if you want. Maybe we should finish Get the Fuck Out first, right? Now that that's a finished game. I was saying to Rydog the other day, Get the Fuck Out. We just have to decide, right? That's it. We all take time off. Well, not all of us, because I'll stream it. A 48-hour stream. We get through that fucking game. Just let's go. Let's fucking do it. I'm saying 48 hours because I think that's how long it would take us. And even then, I'm not sure we'd finish it. Are you kidding? We wouldn't last 2 hours before we've gone off the rails. Oh, dear. But I don't actually know how many missions there are in the final game, honestly. Like, we never got through the first one, so I don't know how many more there are. But I'd love to try and get back to it. I think that would be great fun. But yeah, on the basis that my interest in video games is at an all-time low, and kind of the video game industry, honestly, is kind of at an all-time low. You've seen some people complete it if you thought the first missions were hard. I know, right? We couldn't even do the easy stuff. But yes. This Den of All Things is more like Payday. That'd be interesting. I'd definitely be into it. But yeah, I'm thinking of. I mean, obviously, there's the thing that we're working on. I mean, I think it's only you here, so we probably could talk about it. There's kind of the thing that we're doing. I would like to start streaming a little bit of the kind of creation process behind that. Because I think that would be fun. I would like to start streaming more of the creation process behind like the novels I'm going to try and get out next novel. I'm not going to try and get novels out next year. I'm going to try and get a novel out next year and work on a couple more. I mean, if you're willing to discuss it live and you want to jump in Discord, then I'm happy to do it. Because I've got ideas. I just need to put them. I need to get access to that Gmail account again. I just haven't been bothered to try and do it. But oh, someone seems to be in Discord. Oh, you did go in one of the channels. I can just press a button to join. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello?
I'm hearing like double. 1 second. Oh, I'm disappointed. I can't hear the music.
No, for some reason the music muted and has now stopped.
It doesn't want to go for my beautiful, lovely voice. Shit, I was only kidding. You really didn't have to fix it.
Oh, I fixed it.
If you don't have access to the Google thing, I can move it over to my side and share it with you.
Oh, it's fine. I need to get access to that Google account because it's my main one. I just kind of haven't been bothered.
Okay.
It won't take me long. But
you haven't seen the actual this proposed changes then?
No, I never read what you put in there. No.
Go ahead.
Oh, I like
Make my
Hey,
day.
Rhino.
a lot.
Let me see if I can work on getting access to it now. No time like now. How's it going, Rydog? I hope you're doing well. All right, so what is my backup account for this account? All right, so now I need to try and get into that account. All right.
I took the liberty of correcting some of your spelling mistakes too, like armor.
No, we're doing this English spelling. If I'm writing the fucking story, this is English spelling. All right. Don't you fucking start.
In color.
Oh, dear. I knew you were going to do it as well. I was writing it. It was like, yeah, this is going to be a bone of contention. I can feel it already.
I don't care, really. I just
Oh, dear. Oh, you go and play some golf? Nice. What, like full 18 holes or? Oh, dear.
Oh.
All right, so now you need some kind of code from my phone. Okay.
Oh, what I was going to discuss with you is like, I plan on working on this as well.
Yep.
During my time, and also I have an alternate account, my work stream account now.
Okay. Yep.
I was gonna plan over there, and maybe one day, like if I have like a Friday or whatnot, we can collab and discuss like the creation at the same time.
Okay, I believe it's this.
You can do collab streams, right? Can't you?
Yes, it's streamed together. I've never tried to use it.
Okay.
That's the goal, to be honest. First time since the surgery. Oh well, I hope it all goes well. So yeah. So
Richard golfing didn't right my head like knee surgery, didn't he?
Hip surgery. Hip
Yeah.
surgery. Yes.
Yeah, that's not good for the hips if you're doing old golf technique.
Well, he's got new hips now. Well, one new
Robo
hip. He gets the
hips.
second one next year.
Robo hip.
Think of all the torque he's going to get on those swings. I don't think that's how that works.
I will not tell you where my mind went on that. So,
oh, I know.
My mind went in the gutter.
Yeah. Obviously. All I'm saying is that they didn't get married till after the surgery. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that's a good point. He's just not. Okay.
Oh, that's right. Reshape. Are they like ground some bits off or something? Oh, dear. But yes. So yeah, because when we were talking last time about this, we kind of made the decision that we wanted to that it could go multiplayer.
Yep, the helicopter position.
You need talk to me a helicopter? Oh my. Oh dear.
All right, so I think most of the thing I put in the document was when we first talked first time. Basically, the changes that we were talking about the first time.
Yeah. So yeah, because we moved from kind of like a single player Slay the Spire type thing to the kind of more multiplayer across the obelisk type idea.
Well, it's more like a flexible. I think there's one bullet point then. There's like, we were talking about how we're going to do that. And I was thinking that maybe you have like, what? Oh my God.
Now you know why I was getting distracted while I was talking to just you on stream. Oh, dear.
So anyways. Let me get my thought again. What was like is we were talking about like power level, right? And so instead of a power level, maybe it's like a pool of maybe not turns, but like how much energy usage you have, right? So if you're fewer people, you get more turns. Does that make sense?
Hey, Mango. It does, but so I think so my kind of thought process around this is right. So we have to balance it around something, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to kind of develop it with one idea in mind, and then we kind of make everything else work around it. So we have to try and make it as flexible as possible. So my basic idea is that we base it on 3. So 1 tank, 1 damage, 1 healer, basically, in its simple things. And that's kind of how we balance everything with this kind of power level idea. And my basic idea to this is that we develop... Hey, Serenity, welcome. I hope you're doing well. Is that we develop basic cards for kind of each element that we need. So we've got damage, we've got healing, and we've got... To me, tanking is the hardest one. But... because healing, you heal, damage, you damage. Tanking, you're either trying to absorb the damage or you're trying to protect everybody else somehow, right? Either by taunting, so all the damage goes onto you, or you're putting armor onto other people, or however it is you're trying to get. LP and I are seeing if we can develop a game together. LP's going to do all the technical stuff. I'm going to do all the world building and ingredients and stuff. And then at some point, if it goes well, we get someone to do art, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's luckily me. My art will consist of...
Can you see my little duck on my whiteboard? That's my level. That's my level of art, all right?
My art would be consisting of asking ChatGPT to generate a character for me.
Oh, you can't use AI in art. The game would never sell. Have you seen how much trouble Hasbro got in? But yeah, so my idea is that if we can create a kind of basic, and again, I don't know how many cards we expect people to go in with. I was going to play a little bit of Slay the Spire to see what they did, but then I never did.
Well, I did play Across the Obelisk.
Okay, yeah.
And I've got some ideas on that.
Okay.
One of the new characters is actually like a paladin. They both tank and heal.
Yep.
Which is interesting. So, I mean, I was looking at different. They've added a couple things in there.
Have a good one, Right Dog, and enjoy the golf.
Thanks for noticing me.
And have a good new year if I don't see you beforehand.
So, I guess the question is, do we want to come up with a very basic card version of this, even if it's antagonistic? Like you play the bad guys and I play the good guys, and the AI for that could be added to it. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I think because I was thinking about the bad guys, and I was thinking in most of the card games how they become very predictable and very stale, which I get is part of learning the tactics. I understand that, and you have to have an element of, well, I need to know the tactics so I know what to do. It can't all be random, even though I love random. I think, because again, I think enemies should just have a deck of cards which they can pull from, right? It's just not going to be as big or varied as the player deck necessarily. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you've played board games where you've had AI decks for enemies, right?
Really? Which ones?
Oh, I'm surprised. Did Blackstone have? Yeah, Blackstone had AI decks for the big boss, didn't it?
It had like the card based on what you rolled. It determined. No, that was the actual random mobs. I don't remember actually the big boss we fought.
Maybe you didn't.
It may have. I just don't remember.
The ones I remember most are Dark Souls and Resident Evil 4. In general, we're going for a team-based card game battler, like Slay the Spire or Cross the Obelisk or something like that. But with more emphasis on the dungeon crawling. And it's all based around bakers and cakes, maybe.
Yeah, all these are very early ideas. Nope.
Yes, very early ideas. So I was kind of thinking that if we said that you start with a deck of say 10 cards, right? And this would be per character. So if you start with 3, you're gonna, but if we start with the basic idea that a character has 10 cards, 5 of those to me would be basic, generic, easy to share among everybody, damage, heal, or tank cards, right? And then 5 of those would be class-specific flavor cards. So, like, if you're going to be the tank, because again, you can decide how do I want to tank? Do I want to tank by half of it is I need to try and take the damage or protect the team from the damage, right? That's kind of half of the tank role. And the other half of the tank role is, well, do I ever want to do damage or do I want to do healing? Right? So to me, I thought it'd be kind of interesting if you just said, oh no, it's typing in, it's typing in real time.
Yeah, sorry.
And apparently you're a snake. I don't know. Oh, don't worry. We're all lost. We're at the stage where we're just jumping around from idea to idea. And then we can try and make some kind of concrete ideas, which I think is where we're trying to get, because LP wants to start playing with the, what is it, Unreal? We're using Unreal?
Yep.
So LP wants to start, mucking around with that. So we need to have some kind of solid ideas of what we're doing for stats and everything. All the stuff I'm doing can kind of be done later, really. It's just flavor on top of whatever we do for the basics.
Not really. I mean, some stuff we need to know in advance, like how the system's going to work, what types of, I mean, negative effects can be added to the cards. That should be pretty easy, but the overall, I mean, I guess really, I guess you're all right, I guess, because some of it, I guess the complexity I was thinking about it was like, how many activations you get, but that can still be variable as well. I mean,
yes.
That's variable, and even Slay the Spire. Like you can get things that, like cards, can give you more power.
You can get cards, you can get trinkets. We haven't really decided on how we're going to get power, but I mean, more or less, it doesn't really matter, does it? We're just going to decide that heroes start off with 3 power. Basic cards cost 1, so you can play 3 basic cards a turn, right? It is based on what we're going to go for. We know there has to be a power level or a mana spend, a cost and a resource. But how we make that work, what we call it is there's flavor text. So flanking maturity is you have normal damage resistance. You have a chance to block the damage depending on your armor. So so this is, I think, is the other thing we need to do, because
Oh yeah, items too. How are they affecting the overall
yes. So
effect of things?
So again, this was my fault. All right, so we'll just go through it basics, right? So without thinking about any kind of the behind the scenes how this would actually work, but so this is my idea: is that cards will always, obviously cards are how you do things, right? So it's how you do actions. So cards are how you're going to damage, heal, or tank. However, tanking is going to be done. I think because we've decided you can play it solo, but it's a kind of multiplayer. We're balancing it around there's 3 good guys on the board at any time. We have to then say that each target can be targeted independently. Because I think everything we do on the hero side has to be reflected on the enemy side, at least to a certain degree. So in Slay the Spire, I can attack whoever I want. There is no such thing as taunt, really. In Across the Obelisk, I can basically attack who I want unless somebody taunts. So you don't just attack front or back. You can attack middle.
No, some of the cards actually say front or back specifically, but not a whole lot of them.
Yes, and then but if someone's taunting, they take all of those cards, right? You can't then play to
Yes.
the back. But we could say that you could play to the back if you get a back card.
I will say Slay the Spire does have an oddity.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, not Slay the Spire, but Across the Obelisk does have an oddity that I noticed this yesterday when I was playing a game, is that, and maybe a bug, for all I know, but the Hydra boss, right?
Yes.
Each head except the back one, the front 3 heads does the taunt.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed one of my cards just said random monster, right? And I was actually able to attack other characters other than the person taunting, which I found was probably a little bit of a bug, but it said random.
No, I think random is fair enough to beat that, right?
Okay. I mean, you have a chance, basically.
Yeah. I like randomness. To me, the more random something is, the more I'm going to enjoy it, and the more it's going to piss me off. But that's the risk of random over well planned out. But I think we're also American armor wouldn't work too, right? But yeah, I'm also thinking because we want it to obviously be replayable and all this kind of stuff. Okay, right, back to the basics. So let's say you start with 10 cards. Your cards are how you're going to do all of your actions. For the characters, how do we decide? So let's say, my original remit of 3 characters are all basically in the Baker class. So I'll go through those. So I did the first one to me, who is the tank. Oh my God, what is this?
Wow. Yeah, what is this? It's like Toad.
It is. It's Toad doing Silent Night, I think. So, yeah, basic idea. So, my tank class would be the bread baker. And he would be armed with a stale baguette and a bread tin as a shield, right? And he's going to be a fairly basic tank class. He tries to take the damage, and he's got a little... He has armor. He uses armor, right? So he's going to try and take the damage. He's going to taunt. He's going to armor up. And he's going to try and take the damage that way.
I just got to see something.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
So I did a DPS character. I'm trying to remember what this was. It's all written down on a friend's laptop, which I need to get access to again. I remember the healer more than I remember the DPS. So the healer, I decided, would be basically someone who and kind of more support. So, but in this instance, they are more of a healer than, say, again, adding to armor or any of that kind of stuff. They don't try to prevent damage. They fill in what's been taken. I've forgotten the word for that. It's gone from my mind completely. But essentially, they were the muffin man, well, the muffin maker, and they basically just throw different muffins at.
Muffin Man?
Yeah, they basically just throw different muffins at people. So you can have like a healing muffin, you can have a muffin that would try to take out poison, and then they may have some like damage muffins as well that they can throw at enemies. Right?
There you go. Did I go to Discord? There you go.
Oh no, what have you put in Discord? Oh, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Oh dear. But yes, and then my damage dealer. I'm trying to remember the bloody damage dealer. They were based on the idea of a rogue, so they were still melee focused rather than ranged, but were kind of like quick attacks and sneak attacks. Part of it was that they used flour, like they would throw flour into the enemy's eyes so they couldn't see.
Ooh, blinding effect. You know, I've not seen that.
Kind of idea. I can't remember what weapons I gave them, honestly. But, you know, anyone who's baked's always got flour in their pockets. But yeah, so those are kind of my basics idea, and that kind of gives you the free elements, and we balance on that. So we say that because there's free characters, they've all got free mana or whatever it is to spend per turn. The other question I had is turn order.
So which one of the Muffin Man do you like?
Oh God, you're sending in Muffin Man. I think the second one, because it looks like Father Christmas. It's just swirling muffins around.
I'll put them in actual real.
Yeah, we got to share these somewhere.
We
Don't
gotta
we? We got to share these
real
somewhere. Oh, dear.
Do I have access to board games? Maybe put it in there.
You should have access to general. Does that not work?
Oh, I was just gonna put it someplace where I wasn't spamming people in general.
Oh, okay.
That's the Muffin Man. And this is AI generated.
Oh, you are a professional, Boss Bird.
This is AI.
Oh, dear.
Anyways, sorry I got distracted.
No, that's
Shiny.
fine. That's fine. I have no idea if that link will work and take you anywhere, but I've tried to link to the images in Twitch chat. But yeah, like on the very so for my three main characters, then based on that idea,
What was the third one again?
the
The flower.
it's some kind of like rogue based, uses flower to blind, and would have like two small, what would be like two fairly small bakerish weapons, right? You like how it was 10 fingers, but they're not all correctly placed.
Oh, you're right. I don't. Even better. I just noticed that it's like two thumbs in one hand.
Oh dear.
I mean, this was the other one. Just to...
Oh dear. AI cannot do fingers.
I did that one correctly. It just screwed the other one up for some reason.
A wooden spoon, I feel, would be a good quick weapon. Yeah, like flower to blind. I've got the idea of a wooden spoon and a whisk, just like dual wielding a wooden spoon in one hand and a whisk in the other. But what I like about the idea with that is, and again, this comes down to turn order, and if we want turn order to be part of the strategy, so like in the Slay the Spire, and I think Across the Obelisk is very, Actually, I don't. Actually, I think Across the Obelisk does have an initiative, and it can go from boss to hero, like enemy to hero to enemy, or is it always enemy turn, hero turn?
It's based upon it's
Yeah, that
based
makes
upon your
sense.
speed. It's based upon your speed.
Okay, right. So it's based upon speed. So it's like, do we want to put that kind? Oh my god, what is this? This one even come with
He's a ninja baker.
I like it. That is pretty close to how I imagined it. I'm not gonna lie. Like that is pretty darn close. I like the fact this one's come with a card as well. It's doing all the work for you.
Well, not really. It's not even spelled half those things correctly.
Oh,
Woman,
dear.
a woman and spoon.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, wooden spoon. That's making it to the final cut now. That would be the legendary version of the wooden spoon. So yeah, and then
Okay.
I was trying to think. So how is it we are trying to do classes? Do we want people? So like all of those to me would come under like the baker class, and then you have like roles defined underneath it. If they pay the artist they stole from, they'd get better stuff. That is true. That is true. But we can use this for when we do the Kickstarter. I'm sure for Kickstarters you can use AI images. So yeah, really, for you to start playing around, what is it you need to know? I guess.
Well, this is how I plan on approaching it,
Uh-huh.
and I'll explain how I was going to do it. For flexibility purposes, about every status effect will have its own class, right? Each side there is going to have like specifically what that class affects. Does it affect your health? Does it affect your healings, health, and stuff like? Just a healing is a hurting damage type.
Okay.
So that would be like, I don't know, flower poof. The flower poof ability will have like, ability, and it's either be an option that says it blinds, like a blinding effect, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we were talking about the basic, like everyone gets the basic cards, the first thing that popped in my head was, yeah, we can do, everyone has the basic cards, but what I would probably end up doing code-wise is it would be the basic card for everybody, but it'd be copies, because I can see future, perhaps that, like, for example, inside Across the Obelisk, everyone has a basic card. They all have attack, right?
Yeah.
But they're all named differently.
Oh yeah, they would all have to be named differently because that's the flavor that goes on top. Yeah.
And they have all different art. So that's something I would do. Is they definitely have like different objects for each, even though technically you do 6 damage or you do law damage, right?
Yep.
So it's pretty easy to do, and that little framework I was looking at actually has the ability to do that already. So I can probably set that up pretty quickly.
Okay. So yeah, because I was then trying to think of, okay, so how do we do class, and then or roles, and then how do we give players the ability to play into a run, which I think is something Slay the Spire does better than Across the Obelisk. So to me, Across the Obelisk, it tends to be more you try to build the same build every time, if that makes sense, or at least I do. I may just be in the minority. Like I find a build that works, and I just hope I can. Well, you don't really have to hope. You can buy whatever cards you want once you've unlocked them, right? It's very easy to design a powerful build and then just run with it every time you play the game. Whereas, sorry,
Say the Spider or Across the Obelisk?
Across the Obelisk.
Oh yeah, I have a starter deck on everybody.
Yeah,
that's what I start with, and that's how I play.
Hey Don Fox, how's it going? Welcome. So whereas Slay the Spire is a lot more random in what cards you get access to, right? So it's kind of, what kind of play style are we going for? Are we going for a kind of, you make your build.
I kind of think I do like there's a feature in Across Obelisk that would probably be a blend of both. Okay. Where you pick like the style you're wanting to do. Like, do you want to do holy damage or whatnot? Then it gives you a choice. You go through and you pick the choice of cards. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. But then so across the obelisk does kind of have trinkets, right? But I'm trying to think what you buy from the shop, because you've got the pets, and I like the idea of pets or summons, and it's something that I would like to play around with, but it's not 100% necessary. How many chuggers come before choo choo? Depends on the train.
It depends on how deep that glass is. And you have to chug, chug, chug.
But yeah, so because basically I'm trying to work out. So if we do, because I want to put trinkets in because I find trinkets and the randomness interesting. But then we need to try and work out how powerful they're going to be. Are they going to be like, so for an example, because I'm just trying to take from games that I know that we've both played. Diablo 3, the full set bonuses from armors, right, are basically run defining, right?
Yeah.
You get the set, you build your set, you take the talents that work with that set, right? You don't really go out of that wall.
Yep.
Do we want a player to be able to either through because again, this comes down to replayability, right? Do we want a player to be able to kind of put a set together like that, which then means, well, I'm going to wear this set of armor today on this character, so therefore I definitely know I want to take this card, this card, this card, right? Because it all works in well, and then I hope that during the run I can pick up this card, this card, this card. Kind of idea. Or do we want it to be that those kind of really powerful effects only comes from trinkets? And then you could say, okay, well, I'm gonna try to do this build for this run, but then you pick up this different trinket and go, actually, no, now I need to really lean into this, so I need to change my ideas. I think that's an important question to answer.
So I assume it's going to be more, correct me if I'm wrong, roguelike, whatever the rogue
Whichever one we're going for, yeah.
Whatever term is supposed to be, where you play it the first time, you basically get your ass kicked. Right?
Yes, but there are many ways we can do that level up progress, right? To give you the chance of more power. You can either guarantee it by having character stats, armor sets, whatever, which always go into you for every run. But then whatever you pick up every run, cards, trinkets, is always completely random, right? Or you can, like Across the Obelisk does, the more runs you do, the more cards you unlock to buy in the shop. Yeah, so then I can make a better deck every time I run, and if I win, I'm going to have more money to make a better deck for my next run, etc. But I'm kind of ignoring the money element now. Hey, One Llama, how's it going? Welcome. Oh dear, what was I saying?
The roguelike version of it, how we're going to approach the
because again, if you look at the Binding of Isaac, your character never levels up in power between runs. You always go in as base Isaac, and then you power up during the run. Across the Obelisk, I feel that because of the way it works with the way you unlock cards and the money, and you can basically build your starter decks, I feel the character does become more powerful. And Across the Obelisk also have stats, so your character does become more powerful, right?
And they level up too.
Like 2 damage becomes 3 damage, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Slay the Spire, your character doesn't get more powerful when you start the run, but you have access to more cards and more trinkets, etc., right? But like if you, I think this is correct, if you go in as one of the characters, you always start with the same starting deck, regardless of how many times you've taken that character through the game. Right?
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
if we're going to a roguelike, like whatever, are we gonna give them the option to exit? Like right now, when you're a roguelike, you go until you die, but you unlock stuff.
I think I don't think you would give them the so. I'm going to ask two questions here, I guess. When you say exit, do you mean give up a run? Or when you say exit, do you mean, okay, I've been playing this for 2 hours, I now have to go do life, but then I'm going to come and pick this back up?
I guess I was thinking like if we were treating like the equipment kind of like sort of, I guess I was taking more of a hard approach to the equipment, that you don't have access to the equipment until you bring it back type thing. Like when you bring it back, then you have access to the equipment for the future characters.
Okay, so kind of like the well idea in Halls of Torment.
There's a game I played that was like that. Like once you picked it up, you didn't keep it until you actually almost sort of like Tarkov, I guess.
Yeah. There are a lot of games that work like that. Yeah, you find it once, and if you win, or you can give them the ability to kind of send it up early, kind of idea.
Oh, there will definitely be a save option.
All right, so we're definitely going to have to save. I think from my point of view, so if we're saying that, and again, we'll take Across the Obelisk, and so like let's do Across the Obelisk. So Across the Obelisk, you go through one map, and then you have to choose your portal and go to the next one, right?
Yeah.
Are you then saying that at some point you would like a once I reach the end of the first map, actually, I just want to go back home because I found some good equipment and I want to bank it.
Yeah, almost like that. There's a risk reward.
Yeah.
You could keep going if you want to, but if you die, then you may have to try to open that stuff up again, and you may not see it again for like another 4 runs.
Yeah.
I guess something like that. So I'm kind of thinking, it's just, do you want to do it that way? So you have that. You have that chance of issues in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think you are. I think you're going more for the kind of idea where there's so kind of rather than if we're putting in trinkets, I would say you would never be able to take a trinket back. Like trinkets are always random to the run.
Yes.
I think makes sense to me.
Well, I guess I was trying to figure out how you get the set armor pieces. Like if you had like a set armor piece, like, oh, I finally got this to drop off this boss, like a WoW raid, basically. Okay, now I need to figure out how to get it potentially for the next character, because maybe the character I'm playing didn't have that set. All right, it's almost like playing Diablo, where like you pick up this, you're running the Flame Bird ability off the wizard, right?
Yeah.
Flame. And then you pick up the Hydra one that, hey, that's what I really want. But now I got to go back to town. You see what I mean? Now I go back to town and deposit it for next time.
Yes. Well, I think this then comes down to an idea of do you unlock things during the run?
Oh, maybe you still let them go back to town and then still be able to change out would you let them change out their equipment and armor at that point then?
I think you would. I think if you're gonna earn armor items from doing the floor, I think you have to make it to at least the exit of that floor.
Okay.
Or as a get out. So I think what you can say. So let's say you do a run and you somehow luckily got 4 pieces of things that you wanted. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to make it to the exit to get all 4.
Mm-hmm.
But you could then say, all right, so we're not being complete dicks. You can mark 1, which you will take even if you die. Kind of idea.
So it just carries through.
Right.
There's a mechanic that had that. Like you could find something and you could either, there's like a place you could go and you found this little thing and you could either send it down to the next floor or send it back to the vault.
There was what it was. Fuck. It was a first-person dungeon crawling game that I think Flick played with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Did we play it?
Maybe.
I feel like we may have played it.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, no, I can't remember what that is called. I do not know Rainbow Six Extraction. No. Because if we're going for the armor idea, I think the armor idea then plays into the idea that you would want to be able to build your deck before you start, right? Before you run off. Rather than here's a standard deck and you improve it as you go. Right?
Okay. Yeah, definitely finish it. Okay, so basically you'd have that. I guess I'm approaching it from like an adventurous type thing. For example, D&D.
Uh-huh.
You go out, you fight some kobolds, you get some loot, you come back to town.
Yeah.
Maybe you go to town and okay, now you can afford that piece from the vendor that you've been keeping your eye at.
Okay.
So pick it up, you go out to keep going, basically keep rinse and repeat over and over and over and over.
This starts other questions because I don't want to go into the Tarkov idea that if I take something in and I die, I lose it. I don't like that idea.
No. Once you bring it back, you have access to it.
Are we thinking there's going to be crafting involved?
Yes.
So that means we're going to have some kind of currency, either as in actual money or resources to craft. Right?
Yes.
Possibly both. Probably both.
I mean, honestly, the easiest approach in most games, actually, what most games do is you take like an existing piece, like Diablo. You take an existing piece, you burn it down to an essence, right? That certain number of essences can be used to craft other things.
So the other way to do this is that you say that, like, maybe rather than, I don't know, this is a fundamental approach discussion, I think, here. So do you want to say that, because I think set armor pieces would only be on champions or bosses, right? I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or maybe we say you can get different level powers. I don't know how complicated we want to make this, right? How Diablo do we want to go? Are we making a loot grind card game, which I think could be really interesting? Like, are we trying to make Diablo Slay the Spire or like Diablo Across the Obelisk?
Okay.
That was a question. That wasn't a statement.
I mean, it seems like it has an appeal to it because, I mean, how much time I spent on Diablo just grinding through things to get the set piece. And bear in mind, there is a situation where once I got that set piece, you basically just maul everything you come across, which is what you're wanting, right? You want the user to have the ability to just complete like an Isaac run.
And then I think we do the because I think if you're going down that approach, because basically what you're saying is we are going to have a quote unquote campaign, which is going to be the kind of 3 levels you run through, 4 levels you run through, and then you take on the final boss, and then the campaign is over, right?
Yeah, but we got to make certain though that you don't let them actually use their horse until they've gone through every cutscene, and they can't skip a cutscene, and they have to see all the nice little graphical art that you've done.
Is that what? Do we every time someone plays a card? Is there a 30-second cutscene?
Yes. And that's the only way you get your horse. That's the only way you could ever use your horse. If you miss one card, you're fucked for the rest of your game.
So what I was kind of thinking, because I think if you go down that approach, you then have to do.
I was being sarcastic.
I know. No. I've skipped over the video. I'm going for the. If we're going for the kind of loot grind approach, which is you kind of blast your way through the campaign to get like a basic set, but the campaign is basically just the beginning, right? So you can then either say, well, then we make the campaign harder, so you run through the same things. I think we were talking about randomized floors.
How Diablo works. Diablo looks like it's random, right? It's not. They have a subset tile that they basically randomly generate from. Like every tile has an entrance and an exit.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe multiple exits, multiple entrances, right? And then they basically stitch those together randomly. So it looks like it's random, but it's really not random.
Yeah, I mean, Diablo 4 didn't even try to do that. They're just the same dungeon again and again and again.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm trying to say is if you, like, even Diablo 3, the campaign is the same whenever you run through it. The campaign is the campaign. So are we saying that if we were going to do this way, Are we saying that the first 3 dungeons you always run are always the same? So you can remember the layout, you can remember where all the fights are, you can make your way through it in a way that you know is best. Because we're trying to say to people, you want to run these as quickly as possible once you've got to a certain power level, to do whatever's next, which then begs the question, what would be next? Or are we saying that runs would always be fairly random, with a kind of random dungeon every time you go into it? So you can't really remember the run, you can't set a perfect path. Just, every time you do the campaign, we are telling them you are playing the campaign. In which case, because I think if you're going to do this kind of loot grind, you then have to put something after the campaign to make it all worthwhile. Whether that be a kind of riff on Greater Rifts from Diablo 3, where you can just keep on upping the power of the rifts to see if your run can take it, and then you keep on upping the power of the things that can drop, etc., etc. Which I think could work. I think could be really interesting. It's one of the things I really liked about whatever that game was called, Soulstone, Soul Keepers? I can't remember.
Soulstone Survivors?
Yes. I liked that game was about you go for as long as you possibly can, rather than the game trying to kick your ass from the get-go. Whereas if we're saying that the challenge is actually getting through the campaign, then the game's going to kick your ass from the get-go, right? And I think that is a fundamental approach question to how do we want the game to play.
I don't know. I guess I was thinking you still have your same overworld map like you do for across Southwest, right?
Hey, Rosewood.
And then you internally this event or whatever, this entry that happens, the dungeon delve basically that happens would be the random part of it. But I see what you're saying about if you're going to lean heavily into Diablo, you basically have the campaign, you go through hooray, but then you have to do the loot grind afterwards. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't even have to be a grind. It just has to be, I think you want there to be something people can run where they can just basically up the challenge themselves to just, see how good their run is going. You could just make the campaign more difficult, right? Fairly easily. Again, going back to that kind of power level idea we had, you run it the first time, level 1 is power level 100, you complete it, fireworks, yay. Oh, now you've got hard mode. Power level on level 1 is now 500, right? Which may have been the power level of level 3 the first time you ran through it, right? So now you're going through hard mode, and it's harder, you're getting better loot, but it's harder, everything hits harder, has more attacks. Maybe we, increase the AI dex of everybody to say, let's say that normal enemies have 3 cards, well, now they've got 5, and they hit harder, or they can heal more, or yada. And then you get through that, and then, oh God, now you're on really hard mode. Now the power level when you go into level 1 is power level 10,000, and it's going to kick your ass, right? That's one way to do the repeat, which I kind of like. And I think, honestly, that mixed with a kind of, because I never played these particular game modes, but one of the things that I know a lot of people like about Slay the Spire and Across the Obelisk is the daily runs. Mm-hmm. So you could kind of lean into that. Having leaderboards on a hard mode, like a Greater Rift idea, to see how far you could push it, makes a game replayable. It's kind of, I think essentially we're removing trinkets from the game if we're doing a loot grind. Because I think we're leaning more into the idea that you design your build.
I don't know. I think that, yeah, I see the conundrum. If you design it based on your armor, then that's the focus that you're looking at. Trinkets would then, they could still offset it to make it even better. Maybe okay, you went through the zone and you beat it easy mode. Now you got the moderate level, right? Yep. Okay, but it's still difficult for you. It's But you pick up that one trinket, and like anytime that you cast, healing muffin, or
You don't
whatever it's
cast it, you
called.
throw it.
Oh, excuse me. Every time you throw a healing muffin, instead of healing one person, you heal that person and then people next to it by a certain percentage or something like that. So
Okay, so we're saying trinkets will become more. So let's say, for example, Fawns doesn't exist on sets, but we could say as a trinket, every time someone hits you, if you're armored up, they take 10% of armor as damage. Something like that.
okay,
Right?
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
And then, making like, rather than hitting one person, you hit two people.
okay,
But then I think it becomes, we would have to come down on the list and say, okay, so this is what trinkets do, and this is the powers they can give, and this is what sets give you. And I think you would have to decide that you couldn't put a trinket power on a set, and vice versa.
maybe the trinkets would offset maybe certain trinket. I mean, even if you look at Diablo,
Yeah.
and I know trinkets, they don't really have trinkets Diablo,
They
but
don't.
I'm
They don't
thinking
have
like
trinkets. Yeah.
necklace, and I'm sort of thinking a necklace and a ring, maybe.
Are
Or
you
maybe
having
a
Twitch
weapon.
problem? I had Twitch problems loading up. I had to start twice.
Yeah, it just crashed on me too. I had to refresh the viewer.
God damn.
But maybe trinkets themselves could have some type of set bonuses as well that would help augment certain armor bonuses. I mean,
I think
there's got to be.
Yeah, but I think
Go
that this is the point. Is we're making trinkets an augment, and I think that makes sense. So so we would then say sets give you powers. I think, right? So because again, there's two basic ways of making attacks more powerful, right? So you either buy more expensive cards which do more damage, or you have something in the background like attack power, say. So my basic card with a decent set, my basic attack goes from doing 2 damage for 1 mana to 100 damage for 1 mana. Right? Same card, but we've increased the power by the set has increased my attack power, right? Whereas maybe what we're saying, or you do it the other way around. You say trinkets do that basic stuff, like trinkets increase attack power, armor power, whatever it is, however we decide to do it. And armor sets give you the more interesting stuff, like you attack twice. Every card you spend plays twice or something. But I think we need to have a very clear distinction between what you would get with a set and what you can get in a trinket. If that makes sense.
Okay.
What I don't think you can have is say, okay, so I've built my set. My set is all about damage I hit with swords. And then I get a trinket and it says, well, whenever you heal, you do 8 damage. Well, I don't do any healing. Do I now have to change my run to healing? Do we want that to be a thing?
I mean, there may be still a purpose. Well, no, trinkets don't carry over. So I was going to say there may be a purpose to still keep it, but yeah, you're right. I mean, you got to occasionally get crap gear, though. I mean,
yeah, but we're saying that you won't. Once you've built your set, you don't have crap gear going to run. If we're doing the Diablo idea, we're doing it. You will start off crap. You will grind a lot because you're not going to get the set pieces. You're not going to get powerful stuff for a while. But once you do, you're going to lean into a build and you're never going to change it, right? You're just going to do that build every time.
yeah, but I'm talking about trinkets. So trinkets are meant to offset certain things of the other armor or other powers, and you're occasionally going to get like a shitty trinket.
Right. Yes, but normally,
I mean, even Slay the Spire, I've gotten trinkets and be like, yeah, I don't care about this. And
yes,
just
but that's
go on.
because Slay the Spire. That's because that's the only thing that ups your power that way is the trinket. You don't have
Sure.
sets. So yes, you're going to get trinkets that don't work into the build you're trying to do, or you're going to get a trinket and you go, okay, now I'm going to switch to poison from shivs because I've got the poison trinket, and why wouldn't I? Right? Well, because I'm going to try to. But what we're saying is we've asked someone to put in, 30 hours grinding out an armor set. Their armor set is poison. They suddenly get a trinket that says shivs do more damage. They're just going to go, well, fuck you. What a waste of time. To me, it's a different attitude in the gamer as they pick up the trinkets. But Because, yeah, like in Isaac, the only thing that increases your power really is the trinkets. So you always kind of have to lean into what they give you, even if it's crap.
So are you saying that we should have, like, say, for example, a trinket drops, right?
Yeah.
That it should be able to parse the character's build and determine possible functionality of a trinket dynamically based upon that?
No, I think if we're putting in armor sets, I think we have to say trinkets are all just fairly basic. Really, you can give them lots of flavor, but I think you say that trinkets only ever increase healing done, healing received. Like, I think they only ever increase a percentage of some base stat, basically. And then all of the flavor is either going in weapons and armor. If that makes sense.
A trinket would basically be something, for example, let's go back to the rogue style baker, right?
Yep.
So he uses flour and he has flour, excuse me, he has flour that he blinds people. Okay.
Yep.
So if he picked up a trinket, now he could have, maybe the trinket is deep pockets. So now he has more flour that can blind, 2 people at the same time.
Okay, but then what would you put on the armor set? Because to me, that if you're doing armor sets, that's an armor set power.
Oh yeah, I see what you're going.
Right, because you're going to build around that. You're going to build around the idea that I can blind twice, and then whoever's blind takes double damage from my attacks. And then the other power, if I've got the full set, is I can attack 2 people with every card, right? So you kind of build into a set play style, because that's what a set is. If we're going down that route, down that route. God damn. I was stuck between American and English there.
The only thing I see a trinket good for then is to offset costs. Then, is offset
cost or just to increase base
like armor? Power. Like if you increase, like if you every armor you get 1 more or something like that.
Yeah, basically. Or we go the other way and we say, okay, we don't have sets, but you do have. So you don't have set powers, but you do have armors, kind of thing. So an armor would then increase your base stats. So your kind of your armor value percentage, your damage percentage on weapons, and your healing, either healing received or healing given percentage, right? So that's all kind of like armor is good for, and then all of the flavor goes into trinkets. So let's say
it brings the randomness back into it. Then
it brings the randomness back into it, and then we're then saying that you build your deck to lean into the run rather than you build your deck to dictate the run, if that makes sense. And I think those are the 2 different philosophical ways you can do a card game like this.
Okay.
Across the Obelisk, I feel you build your deck, you build your strategy, and then you go and take that and see how it works against the enemies, right? That's kind of how you're testing it. Whereas Slay the Spire, you take the basic cards they're giving you, you see what trinkets you get, you see what cards they offer, and you build your deck based on what you have access to in the run. So each run is different that way. I think if you're going for the Diablo-esque loot grind with the ability to craft and stuff, I think you are philosophically going for okay, this is my build and I'm now going to pit it against this floor. So I decide my build, my cards before I go in, and then trinkets are fairly basic but still quite powerful improvements, which can make my run easier or harder. I think we should say a trinket can make it harder. I don't mind that.
Like a curse.
Yeah, you could have a curse and maybe your damage goes down or you lose one of your mana points or whatever it might be, right? Nothing too bad. I don't like curses to be run. Well, I guess a curse could be run ending, but run ending over time, not kind of instant, I guess.
I mean, it could be a curse that's both hindering and helpful. So, like, this trinket, it's like overcharge or extra spice or what do you want to call it, that it basically causes you to do more damage, but at the chance of you taking damage or something like that. Right?
Yes. And again, this is again one of those interesting questions. It's do we always want do you want to split trinkets out into like trinkets and curses, but you don't know what you're picking up when you get it? So you either pick up a trinket or, you either pick up a boon or you pick up a curse. Or no one in the office and everyone is streaming?
Well, I mean, if you want to go strict D&D, you could pick up a magic item, and it looks like, for example, the bag of holding.
Yep.
It looks like a bag of holding until you try to use it. And then it eats you. But it only has a percentage chance of eating you. Sometimes it'll eat the item, or so on and so forth.
So I think so I'm going back to Slay the Spire, and one of the changes I really disliked about it is when the trinkets that drop from bosses had negatives on them, because they used to be purely positive. Like you would pick up one of them and you would just get 1 extra mana, right? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent positive. Now they changed it. You get 1 extra mana, but you also can't use potions. Okay, why? That's stupid. To me, that's dumb. Right? I picked up a trinket. It should be a boon. Whereas I don't mind if there is then the risk is you found a chest in a room. That chest is either going to have a trinket or a curse. You don't know. Do you risk opening it? I don't really like the idea when you get a trinket, it's also got a but statement attached to it, but that could just be a me thing. I'm happy to go with but statements or and statements or whatever it is we're going to try to do.
I mean, to me, all the things it's just a programming class. And inside there you have properties, and based on those properties, you just define what that specific class does. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, but this is more philosophical game design statement.
Yeah. That's a you problem.
That's not a me problem.
Balancing is a you problem.
That's an us problem. That's an us problem.
What the hell is even
I
that?
can't design a game if I don't know what it is we're trying to design. All right.
Programming side, I say, this is a property that it does this.
You're not just a programming bitch. Come on. All right.
No, I'm the programming bitch.
We're developing this together. All right.
Honestly, you can take however you want, but my hope is to at least get a framework working that you can occasionally, when you feel like it on stream, go in and dabble and say, okay, we're going to make this status effect card now. Does that make sense?
Yes. So yeah, but because I think we're pretty honestly, I think we're pretty agreed on most of the basics, right? Which is, we know there's going to be status effects, and I'm assuming that would do stuff like poison, whatever else you have, whatever we would call them, and then blind, possibly sleep, so like people can skip turns, stuff like that. It is a duck, yes. It's my terrible artistic impression of a duck. It definitely looks more like a duck than a frog. Unless American frogs look like ducks. But what was I saying? Yeah, I think the real question that we haven't answered is, how do we make people more powerful? Hey, Ewok as well. Do we want people to start off every run at the same level? But depending on how they do what they find, they then increase what is then in the pool to find on a run. Because I said, so the way Slay the Spire, and I think Across the Obelisk works this way as well, is that depending on how well you do on a run, you unlock. No, hang on. Across the Obelisk, if you find a card in a run, how do you unlock new cards in Across the Obelisk?
You complete. Do something. It's something with your. It does have like a leveling. It's something with. I think there is a level. Wait a minute. Did you say Across the Obelisk?
Across the Obelisk, yeah.
It just randomly drops inside It just randomly drops in the card reward screen.
So in Across the Obelisk, is it possible on the first run to find any card, or from a drop, and then it's added to the buy pile, right? Because you can't buy any cards when you start Across the Obelisk, right? Your shop
No,
isn't full.
Yeah, you have to unlock it. You have to
Okay,
unlock it
so
first,
so it
and
unlocks
it's
through a random drop, basically, and if you pick it, it unlocks, right? Because you get
not
the
necessarily.
choice.
No. Whenever the cards turn over in Across Obelix,
Yeah.
they'll say unlock, and it's unlocked. Now there are some
Oh, okay.
cards that you can only get through events.
Yeah,
Like you have to do X to get this card to unlock, or you have to do because some of the events you can say you can choose to power up the enemies, and
Yeah.
it gives you the choice of the 2 items, and some of those are cards that you can only get from there.
okay. But in general, what we're saying, the real power up in Across the Obelisk is the ability to buy the cards that you want because you found them during a run.
Yeah,
Because again,
Like-
Across the Obelisk leans into that you make a build and you run with it idea.
yeah. I mean, so
Um,
like the first game you play of Across Obelisk, like
Yeah.
you first thing you fight, you're gonna unlock like probably a shit ton of cards.
Yeah.
Just because that's how it works. And bear in mind, it's based upon the character. So, like
Yes.
a tank that is the armor tank won't have access to the paladin level stuff that the paladin tank has.
Yeah.
Or the thorns tank. So there's each character has access to specific cards. So that's just how that works.
Yeah. So Slay the Spire, the way the power creep works is that the further you go, the more trinkets and the more powerful cards you unlock
Mhm.
to possibly find on the next run.
I don't remember how Slay the Spire unlocks cards.
Basically, it's how far you get on a run.
Oh,
And then if you beat the boss, and then it also unlocks all the different trinkets that you can possibly find as well.
gotcha.
And again, those are based on per character. So what you run through with the Ironclad, whatever he's called, you get his stuff. Card wise, I think trinkets can go anywhere. I'm not actually 100% sure on that. If there's class specific trinkets or not. But yeah, the idea with Slay the Spire is that every run will be different because you don't know what cards you're going to get, but every run has the ability to be more powerful because you've unlocked the more powerful cards, which you can then pick up in the run. Whereas, Across the Obelisk is very much more like the kind of Diablo way, which is, okay, we're giving you the ability to make a deck of cards that works really well. It is more, Across the Obelisk is more of a deck builder. Whereas Slay the Spire is a roguelite, whichever one it is.
It's a rogue something.
Right? With rogue elements built in because obviously you unlock the cards that you get. So I guess that's a fundamental question we never kind of went through is, do we want this to be more of a deck builder? Do we want more of a kind of emphasis on like Magic the Gathering type? I want this card, this card, this card, and that card. Or do we want it to be a little bit more random? And are we going to make people pay for digital card packs?
Micro purchases already. Wow.
Microtransactions!
Wow. Way to go ahead and lean right into it. Wow.
Oh, dear.
Wow. Okay.
To me, we would not want people to buy packs, right? Unless we're making this a free-to-play game as a service, then yes, fuck you. You can buy your packs.
It'd be like Hearthstone, and you potentially have a random chance of getting it when you buy 100,000 packs.
Whereas no, I think we're going more for the idea that I mean, you could do the card pack idea, but you don't have to buy the card packs. Like, if you wanted to do it based on if you beat the boss, you get 5 card packs, but they are fairly random, so you don't know what you're going to unlock.
Yeah.
It all comes down to the idea that we want. I don't think we want this game to be a one and done, right? So what I mean by that is you don't want to just take your band of heroes through the campaign, you finished it, you put it away, right? We are thinking of a more repeatable idea.
Yes, and I do like the Across Obelisk because I play it consistently, but it's too long. I mean, sure, I can stop at any time now that I have the save feature.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will. I understand. I both understand why it happens, and I dislike it. But
No, I
a
agree
lot of
with you
times-
completely with Across the Obelisk because I find a run too long.
Well, a lot of times with Cross Obelisk, like I'll put it away, and it could be like a month before I come back. He's like, yeah, I haven't played the game in a while. I'll come back and play it.
Yeah.
And the first thing that pops up and says, your game is incompatible with the current version. I'm like, motherfuckers, I was almost done. That pisses me off more than anything.
No, I think that's kind of why I like the idea, like you said, of, you know, if we go for the idea that we want a floor or an area, like we would say we want it to take on average 20 minutes, right?
Mhm.
You can then decide at the end of at the end of that floor or whatever it is, okay, I just want to
To
exit
cash
this run. I want to cash out.
Yeah.
Or, no, we're having a good run, but we don't have the time right now. Let's save this one and we'll continue on next time. Right? Do you want to give people the option? Or is the option always ever going to be, right, we either quit or we carry on? And if we carry on, we have to carry on right now.
Well, I can tell you, and this is something I've done before, specifically Monster Train, the ability to, and you can sort of do it with the Cross Obelisk too. So, like, and I'll tell you, I've cheese system, anyways. In Monster Train, right?
Yeah.
If there was something I didn't like going on in the card game, the card battle at that time, just Alt F4 it.
Oh, yeah. No, we're not allowing that.
And then when you come back, it's like, oh, you didn't actually die.
No. When you make a move, you've made a move. You're not going backwards.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a power that lets you take a move back, which I'm perfectly happy to put in as a thing. Hey, Trunks.
The Time Turner from Harry Potter. Oh, can't say that we get sued.
The idea that you can have a card like an Uno reverse, or you could have something, you know, because again, this is the other thing we've never talked about is, do we want the ability to be able to play cards face down? They would more or less be face up because it's co-op or you're playing it by yourself. When you play a card, does the action happen straight away? Or do you want to be able to play like a card that says, okay, when I die, I come back?
It's like a reaction card almost.
Yeah, but you kind of, you can then stick it in a reaction slot. And if you do that, let's say your hand draw is 7. I think 7 is pretty normal for a hand size. If I play when I come back I die, does that take your hand size down to 6 because you've played a reaction card, or do we have a reaction card spot and you can only ever play one at a time? With maybe trinkets or something, give you then the ability to then have 2. Like, do we want that kind of play style? Like, do you want traps? They can be set off by enemies, that kind of idea.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Sorry, my brain works by going all over the place. So,
Well, I mean,
you should know that by now.
these are all ideas. We
I'm
have
the-
to
I'm-
eventually rein it in and provide focus to it.
I'm
but-
the ideas man. None of us are actually the game designer. I'm the ideas man. You're the programmer. But no, I think the fundamental thing we haven't really addressed. Also, why are there emotes coming up on the screen behind me?
because they're dancing to the song.
Is that a thing I did? That must be a thing
No.
I did. Okay. I remember that. Just like I can make my camera look like this. I don't know if that's helpful. Probably not. All right. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Being able to play cards face up or face down, basically.
I quite like that idea, honestly. And
Yeah,
I think you would have, now you could make it class specific, so not everybody can do it. You could do, because if you do the idea of I think this works really well for the idea of a support class. Like if you were trying to rip off Baguette from Overwatch, original Baguette, not new Baguette, where she did armor packs, the ability for her to be able to like throw cards onto people that react after they've been hit would be interesting. But anyway,
I mean, you could do the same thing with a tank. So, like, you can do like an interceptability. So, like, if you put a reaction card saying if the opponent attacks someone other than you,
yeah,
right, you'll intercept this one attack, and then basically that card's being
yes,
expended.
yeah. I think that works really well. I think, being able to spend your mana to put cards that happen on the enemy's turn, especially if we are doing a speed initiative idea where it's not always going to be heroes go, enemies go. You know what I mean? In a group. Because I Slay the Spire, my character goes, then all the enemies go. If that makes sense.
Not necessarily true in across. Across all this, it's basically based on your speed.
Yeah, so
And
they have an
can
initiative order basically based on speed.
Yeah.
And so the enemies also have speed?
Yep. Enemies have speed, and you can affect their speed. They can affect your speed. You can increase your speed, decrease theirs.
So I think adding that into the strategy, I think is good. And then, because again, with the kind of ninja rogue flower guy, giving him the ability to like sap, then kind of works.
I will say one thing that I've noticed that the Across all books, it's relatively. I think they've added it recently. They could have added it like 4 patches ago. I haven't played it in a while.
Yeah,
but they now have certain bosses that, say, for example, my speed's like 25, which is pretty quick.
Yeah.
Right? They now have bosses that have speed 43 to start off with. I'm like, that makes some sense. I know why they're doing it, because they want the boss to take their turn,
the boss to go
throw
first.
the debuffs on you, and basically the thing going. But I'm like, okay, if I'm like speed 30, I should be able to go in and get at least one shot the boss.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's fair enough. I mean, and again, I think you would say depending on the floor, right? So like a floor 3 boss is probably, well, depending on how we just design the bosses. I haven't even looked at boss design yet.
We got time.
But depending on how we're designing the boss, I would always expect a level 3 boss for most of your first few runs to always be ahead of you, right?
Yeah.
All right, I think we've decided that we're doing you can build your deck and you put your deck against the run idea, rather than random unlock more powerful cards and you might get them kind of idea.
Which is fine.
It is fine. It's just if we made that decision, then a lot of it just changes the way we approach stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I'm happy with that. Again, we're going to balance this initial run against a team of 3.
Or 1.
No. We're going to balance it for 3. And then we will then work out how we do more or less characters per run.
Up to a max of what? 4?
I think we said 4
12?
or 5, right?
Okay.
I also think we also need to decide, so when it comes to enemies, how many enemies per fight are we going to allow?
See, that's something I think is variable based upon the amount of the party size, right? I mean, if you got like, say for example, we allow 5 players, like 5 multiplayer people coming in and playing.
Yeah.
And you only have like 2 enemies, those guys are going to get slaughtered. Unless you adjust their stats. I guess you can adjust their stats to account for it.
Well, again, I think this comes down to this idea of power level, right? And how we try to compensate. Because, that's one way. If we say there's 5 heroes, then there should be 5 enemies. Like, say on the fight, there should always be X number of enemies plus 2 based on hero size, right? So 2 heroes come in, there's 4 enemies. 1 comes in, there's 3. You're adjusting the power level that way, or do you say, okay, you're bringing in 5 heroes, each one only gets 1 mana, so they can only do 1 card on their turn.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Right, because you can spread it out that way. I think because if you're bringing more, you're probably doing it multiplayer, not solo. You probably want to increase the difficulty of the fight rather than making it more boring for the player. If that makes sense. Like, I think if you were doing it solo and you decided to bring a party of 5, then them all having different options might work, but that's kind of not the philosophy we're going for.
Yeah, but I think dividing it by, I mean, say for example, you have 10 mana.
Yeah.
Right, 10 mana. And you divide that by the number of players you're playing or a number of characters you're bringing. So if you brought 5, you'd have two activations, basically.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, some cards can be 3+ or 4+. Some cards are even 9.
Yes.
Those are basically ones where you're just sitting doing nothing. You're just hoarding your mana until you can actually do an out.
Oh, so another interesting question that we never actually talked about is, if you don't spend mana, do you save it?
I like the idea of saving it because you can save up to cards that you wouldn't normally. It's either, okay, if you don't save it, then you can never have a card greater than the possible max mana that you can get.
No, but then you would have a ways of increasing your mana, right?
I mean, that would, I think that would, I mean, well, if the idea is to allow them to break it, that would definitely work. Because, like, for example, if you had like a 9, like, for example, Disintegrate across Hobbiton, I think it's like a 7 cost card, right?
Yeah.
7. You don't start with 7. You have to save up for it, hope you draw it type thing.
So, and in Slay the Spire, there are cards that cost 4 mana, but you start with 3. But then you can pick up trinkets that take your mana to 4. So you can decide to buy that card and then hope you increase your mana pool so you can use it. Or you don't. So, but I don't mind. I quite like the idea of you being able to store your power to use for more powerful attacks if you want to. I think that's more interesting. And I think it also means you can make the enemies a little bit more challenging to fight.
I do like for example, a lot of times on the healer that I use, he's more of a passive healer.
Yeah.
But I usually keep a lot of cards in his hand where he can push cards. Like, say, for example, he draws this card. I don't remember what it's called. Let's say Divine Sense, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What he can do is he can say, I can pick these cards and put them back in the top of my deck.
Yeah.
And so what I do is, if I don't need to expend energy to heal, if the passive heal is sufficient for it to, overcome what damage I've taken, I'll push those cards back into the deck so that maybe the boss comes in and basically strangles somebody.
Yeah.
Now I have the ability to, recover from that damage spike.
Yeah. It also means that one of the buffs can be just giving people mana for a turn, which works. So I can play a card which gives, I'm the healer, I can play a card that gives a tank free mana for the next turn.
Yeah, they have that too.
Yeah. And I've always liked that. I've always liked that's part of the play style, right? And it opens up a lot of ways of making the support character or the healer a little bit more different than just healing, right?
Yeah, because you can sit there and go, okay, well, healing's good. I mean, I don't really need to heal anybody. My damage deck's not going to really hurt anything, so go ahead and throw the mana over to like the mage or something like that.
Yeah, you buff the characters up, right? Whether it's through mana or you increase their attack percentage for that one attack. I think that makes sense. Okay. I think we got the basics down then, kind of. I think the only real question then is do we want to do armor sets? I like the idea of armor sets. I like the idea of going for a run trying to loot or get the crafting materials for an armor set. And I
no, here's a question.
Yeah.
I'm okay with crafting to a point, right? I don't feel they should be able to, if we're going to do like set armor, I don't think they should be able to craft set armor. I think that's something you have to grind out.
So
which is true for Diablo, for most of them.
I think there are two ways you can approach this, right? Is because I both agree and I disagree with you on this point, right? And I'm going to take this back down to my World of Warcraft days, where you would grind dungeon after dungeon after dungeon, hoping one thing would drop, right?
Wow.
And then it wouldn't. It would never drop, or if it did drop, someone would steal it. What I would say is that it might be nice if you could craft. Well, you do it one of two ways, right? So Diablo 3 gives you the ability, because Diablo 4 doesn't have sets. Diablo 3 gives you the ability to take a set piece and turn it into another set piece if you've got extras, as a way of compensating for you never get the drop that you want, right? And I think that's the thing. I think, yes, I agree. I think you should only be able to get set pieces from playing through the game, but you also need a little bit of how many runs can we really expect somebody to do? This thing never drops before they go, fuck it, I'm going to play something else, right?
Agreed.
So having some kind of backup. So whether you say that you can dismantle set pieces to get a set piece currency, but you make the set piece crafting recipes very high. But what that does then say to someone, okay, well, I know that at maximum I have to do 100 runs and I can get this piece. Just as an example, I'm not saying we should aim for 100 runs. But, we said, well, if you want to make something, you need 100 of these currencies. You're guaranteed to get something drop if you beat the boss. Set piece wise, if we decide to... Hey, cheers for the look, Serenity. If we decide to go that way. No microtransaction set pieces. No. Bad LP. No. No.
But there's some people that just want to buy it.
Oh, people would bloody buy it, yeah. But no, I think having some kind of backup mechanism, so there is a way outside of runs. Like, you still have to do the run. The run is getting you the rewards. But there's you can just... I think it just helps people internally and logically to say, okay, I have to run this 30 times, but I might get lucky and get it run 1. You can spend the set piece credits into a fun mechanic where it's a random redrop of set pieces. That's how Diablo does it. No, I think if you set the set piece, guaranteed set piece crafting recipe high enough, they can craft whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, you just basically grind it out.
Grind it out, but there is a guarantee that you only have to grind out 100 times max.
Yeah.
I think that is, but yes, I don't think you should be able to craft set pieces easily.
Well, then you'd have to you need to balance that. So, because you want people to replay it, right? You don't want to in 50 playthroughs, you have your set piece and that's all you're doing.
I think in this kind of game where we're basing it around sets, unless you constantly add new sets, there is a kind of end date staleness to the game. Because I think if you're building your deck and your run, once it works, you're done, right?
Yeah, but then what's the purpose of playing it again? Other than to maybe see how the other ones feature. Because a lot of times I do in Diablo is I would try the other sets. Yeah,
no, that's what I mean. You're then going down the alternative route, right? Okay, so you've got your main character up. You're only playing it solo. You've got your set. You've got all your cards. We're not really having trinkets do much, so that doesn't really add much flavor to a run. So once you've got your set and you can beat level 1 all the way up to floor 3 easy, okay, well, you either do the harder floor now, so that's how we're doing replayability, right? So throw it up against the harder run. Or we're saying to them, okay, well, now go try the rogue class, build them up, get their sets, right?
Okay, so with crafting, right?
Yep.
Are we going to okay, so if we're saying, to say we have easy through, I put it in here as dangerous 1 through whatever, so basically it's torment, right?
Yep.
Now, you can have a piece set that drops on easy that has lower stats than something that drops on hard, right? So when crafting, what's the baseline for crafting? That you can only craft easy and then eventually the other ones drop, or what?
I think you do it based on, so again, if we look at Diablo, as a Diablo 3 as a kind of example, you have set pieces, you then have legendary set pieces, you then have whatever the red set pieces were. So what you could say is that, okay, so the easy set piece, and again, I'm just going to do power levels. The easy set pieces, the power level is 1. The hard set pieces, and we could then say, a name for the game? That comes last, right?
Cake-topolits.
LP's Cake of Fun.
Cake-ellipse.
Cake-ellipse. Well, okay, so I we can go into that. But no, I think, because again, how would are we wanting people to upgrade their set pieces via crafting, or are we wanting people to upgrade their set pieces by they have to farm for it again?
Maybe.
Cheers for the low trunks.
Maybe what we can do is say set piece for easy, right?
Yeah.
can be updated to the moderate level with additional crafting to add to it. So you take the old piece,
Yep.
you add to it to get the new piece, basically. So you still allow them to craft up if they want to, but it still requires them to burn. For example, I'm figuring easy drops, essence 1, 2, and 3, right?
Yep.
Moderate drops 4, 5, and 6. Hard
Yes.
drops, so on, so on, so on.
Yeah. But does hard also drop the hard set piece?
Yes.
Okay.
So you still have that chance, right?
Yeah.
But if you do a run and you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, you just can't get it working, then you can still craft all the way from easy to hard.
Yeah,
And
because
even
that makes sense. Because realistically, with the game we're kind of coming to, is the only way to increase your power really is to increase your armor. Because okay, there's going to be cards to unlock. Are we going to have new cards in hards? Or are we purely saying that no, it all has to rely on your armor and your set bonuses? You know what I mean?
I think if you don't increase, unless the armor is going to, like if you have an armor set, it's going to have to affect the cards play.
Oh, 100%, yes.
Otherwise, you're never going to be able to defeat moderate because they're going to say, for example, easy boss is 100 hit points, right? The moderate one's 250. Well, you can spend even though you may be able to survive it now, you may be spending 40 turns to try to kill it.
But what I mean, there's two ways you can increase the power, right? You can either say that, so let's say for one of the sets, it increases your attack plus attack percentage by 1,000%, right? Or whatever it is. So what that means is once I'm wearing my set, my normal attacks go from 1 to they do 1,000 damage instead, right? Random example. You can then say, well, we do a hard version of the card, which is the hard version of the card does 3 damage. So then my set bonus is still the same, but I'm now doing 3,000 damage, right? Or we keep the same card and we put the set bonus, we do a moderate version of the armor, and then the set bonus has now gone up to 2,000% damage or 3,000% damage, right? So it's, do you want it basically, once you've completed easy, you've unlocked all of the cards you're going to get, basically. And there are no cards. We might put some special cards locked behind the hard difficulty, like flavor cards, flavor attacks. I think that makes sense. Okay. But really what we're saying is all of the power creep is from the armor and the sets.
Okay.
And the weapons. Again, this is a question, not a statement.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that something has to offset the, your attack card does 6 damage, obviously, right?
Yes.
Okay. If something's not offsetting that, you're going to be fighting shit in the hard level forever.
Oh yeah, but that's what I mean. It's, you either say them, well, okay, we get my basic damage because I've got the hard version of the basic damage. They now do 12 damage every time I play that card, but that's the card. Or the power creep comes from the armor.
I like that.
Right? It's where do we want to put the damage? Where does it come from? Does it come from the card drops, or does it come from the armor crafting, or is it a split between the two? If that makes sense, because like Diablo, it's all based on armor, right?
I like that.
You'll get your armor to a certain point, and then you have to basically hope for a drop that changes your armor power by a little bit amount, and then I can push for a higher Torment Rift, right? And then obviously they've got the gems that you upgrade every time, and they're kind of your basic. That's your basic power upgrade every run with the legendary gems.
I like that, because then you could say once you've unlocked all the cards in easy, you don't have to unlock all the cards, but say you have the card set that you need unlocked, ready, and you got a deck you want to build, right?
Yeah.
Now you can go through and say, okay, I'm going to go a moderate level. Go through it. It's going to be a little more difficult. You basically have started over again.
Yeah.
On a more difficult level.
Yes.
With all your cards, even though it's an easy deck that you have, and you can slowly start piecing in your moderate level cards.
You start to increase the power of the cards rather than increasing the power of the cards through armor.
Okay.
Because yes, I'd always had the idea that you would have, like Diablo does, you have an attack power asset, stat, whatever you call it. And then every damage I do is based on that attack power, and that attack power can increase from many different sources, be it my armor, my weapon, or my ring, or whatever it is, right? But it just means I do more damage. I like the idea, and again, you can do crafting with the cards as well, right? We say, okay, now rather than you unlocking hard versions of the cards, you upgrade your existing easy cards to hard cards, or moderate cards, which means that you could have upgraded a couple to moderate. I'm gonna have to go back through this part and take better notes.
Yeah.
We'll try and summarize at the end once we've made decisions. So yeah, no, we haven't made decisions yet. That's the whole point. We're just discussing. At this stage, I wouldn't even be taking notes because we're just going all over the place.
I think.
Yeah. What I was saying to finish that thought before we move on is that what that means is that by the time you get to the moderate level, I could have had enough crafting materials to upgrade 2 of my cards to moderate by the time I hit there. Not all of the deck, but I've now got 2 damage cards that do 12 and the rest do 6, right? Because the currency for those is easier to get than the currency for the set pieces. I like the idea that the power comes from both, honestly. Yeah. I like the idea that you increase your armor set, which increases your kind of percentage attack power, and you increase the base level of the cards. Mm-hmm. I think if you do a level of both and kind of level it, because again, I think we have to base everything on this kind of idea of a power level, right? You're going to walk in at power level 1. The first group of enemies you're going to fight are probably going to be power level 1/2, so you have a nice easy fight and you don't hate the game straight away, right? The first taste is always free and easy. Remember that. Right? And then slowly they're going to get up to fights which are level 1. If you fight the champions, they're probably going to be level 10 in the first floor. And then if you fight the boss, they're probably going to be level 20 and kick your ass. Right? Because it's very unlikely we're going to give you, because we are doing more of a grindy aspect to it. I'm going to have to think of trinkets. I want trinkets to be in there, but I don't know how to make them work. I like the idea that you can have a per run power boost.
I don't want them to be. I don't want us to like go down this path of armor and all that stuff, and then like, okay, we got the general premise of the game working, right?
Yeah.
But now we've got to add trinkets, and then it's like kind of like it feels like a leftover.
No, I want. Well, in a way, that might be how it works, because if we're saying trinkets are kind of I think we should say, what the hell is that?
I asked for a magic.
You asked for a magic baker. I like
magical baker.
So yeah, what I was no, I don't know what I was saying. What I was saying is that if trinkets are going to be like, trinkets I think we should make trinkets incredibly rare to the point that you may not see them on every run, right? But if a trinket does drop, it's going to make you stupid powerful for that run. Like, let's say you were lucky enough on your first run to go into a room and a trinket dropped and you picked it up, you would probably win your first run because it's made you stupid powerful in some way. Whether it's...
you picked up the... picked up the God mode item.
You picked up the, whether it gives you like lots of armor, whether it then says you can attack 8 billion times, or, something like that. Like, I think if we go that idea with trinkets, which is they are incredibly rare, but you only get them for the run. You can't keep them. You can't take them back. You can't ship them. And you also should not try and rely on a trinket. When a trinket drops, you're going to have fun. And I think that's the thing. If we're going to do trinkets like that, if a trinket drops, you're going to have fun. I think is the... And maybe you say if you do a run and a trinket doesn't drop, the percentage to drop in the next run goes up. And then after, say, 5, 6, 7 runs, maybe more if we're going to make trinkets that powerful. If you haven't got one, okay, it's guaranteed. But then as soon as one does drop, the percentage goes back to 1% or whatever it is. I do want there to be fun mechanics, yes. Right? Does that make sense to you, LP?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think what also, chat, I set this camera angle up. Look at Stardew Valley twirling. Whee! There we go. Yeah, the more you play without getting a trinket, the more likely you are to get a trinket to give you a stupidly powerful run. Because that's what there's something Isaac does very well at its core, is that you can have train wreck runs and you can have very powerful runs, right? We're trying to say you're not going to have train wreck runs because you are gradually going to build up your power. As a hero, you are going to feel more powerful every time you go in, right? And you're going to get further every time you go in because you've upgraded something. You've either found a piece of armor. Are we giving heroes base stats, or are all stats on armor?
I like armor as being an augmentation. Because if we don't give the character stats, then it's just purely armor, and there's no
Yes.
point of leveling a character.
Well, what you're saying there is you're not leveling your character per se.
Leveling your armor.
What the character brings you is certain cards.
Okay.
I don't mind that if you want to increase stats. We then have to think of what stats the characters have.
But you're gonna have to do anyways.
Well,
If it's on armor, you still gotta think of the stats.
Yeah, but then I'm just thinking of the stats of the armor, not necessarily the stats of the characters, and then I'm not thinking of the interplay between them.
Well, if we want like a turn base, like I go based on speed, like across Obelisk, right? You got to have at least some type of speed option, right?
Do
to
we
know
want? Okay,
initiative.
so this again. This is another question, right? Do we want? I think speed makes sense because then you can start to play against it, right? Because part of me was like, do you just want to make it completely random? If there's
initiative
12
chance.
if there's 12 characters on the board, heroes or enemies, everybody rolls, highest goes first, yada yada yada. Everybody has a go, you then roll again, right? Doesn't leave a lot of room for strategy unless you put the strategy in the fact you can then modify or play with those dice rolls.
Kind of what we did in Blackstone Fortress, where we put the cards in there and you shuffled them, right?
Yes.
Remember? And then
Yes.
you played it out there. But then we could do.
You're
could
thinking of
take a
Nemesis,
resource.
but yes.
Was it Nemesis?
Nemesis. Yeah. Well, Nemesis, you pulled the enemies out of a bag.
No. In
And then I think
Blackstone,
there were cards you shuffled for the initiative order.
I thought Blackstone did that too. 'cause I
Blackstone
know
may have done that as well.
Right would always like expend a die so that he could. We did a lot of strategy about shifting Mr. Flamer guy around.
Yes.
So he goes
So
first and basically kills everybody.
I like the ability that you can change the order. And obviously if it's based on speed, you can do that because then you can increase your speed, so you're going to have a set guaranteed chance, more set guaranteed chance of being the fastest. And then there's somebody like a rogue, I can sap the enemy so I can move them down in the order for either the entire round or just a turn, whatever. Or do we want to do a random roll at the start of every round of fighting? And then part of me likes that. The other part of me thinks that would be too complicated and people won't like it.
I think if we did more like a D&D, once you rolled, that is your turnover.
Yeah, and that's basically speed, right? I know there's the element of rolling in based on it as well, but then you've got all the modifiers that would increase your initiative order, right? What is it? Intelligence? I forget. Anyway. But yeah, do you want so let's say you walk into a room, everybody does their rolls, you got an initiative order. Do we then have the ability, basically it's like a round 0, to try and shuffle that initiative order around, move heroes forwards or enemies backwards, and then your initiative order is set every turn? Or more like D&D and Across the Obelisk, do I, as my turn, I can then play a card to delay somebody for that turn. But then when the next turn starts, they're going to jump back to where they were initially in the initiative order. I think Alpy may have left.
I was asking ChatGPT to do something. Sorry.
Okay.
I kind of zoned out there.
Huh.
yeah, sure.
It's
Say that
changing from
again?
fixed to rolls per round. Turn-based. I have a feeling board-wise, it may end up looking more like For the King 2 rather than Slay the Spire. I've got an idea it's going to look a little bit more 3D. But
Well, I will
We'll see.
interject a statement there.
uh-huh.
Slay the Spire would be 2D generated. It's two-dimensional graphics. It
Yep.
doesn't really do 3 dimensions. Obviously, but For the King is going to be 3-dimensional based things, and it's fine. You can do it either way. I just
It just comes down to, because again, this will be important for card play and how attacks work, right? Because obviously in Across the Obelisk, everybody stands in a line, and you can attack that whole line, or you can attack certain parts of that line. Whereas in For the King 2, they're spread out more across a board, right? I don't think I want to make movement a big part of fight. I don't think I want to make movement a part of it at all, honestly. I don't think that works in a card game, card-based battler. But oh no, you've made a necromancer.
I like the triple knife pitchfork he has.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. Oh dear.
Zombie cake.
See, to me, the necromancer becomes a class that you would say is a solo player class. But anyway,
Yes.
that's
Or a boss.
let's not
that
muddy the
maybe-
waters.
Maybe some of the characters you unlock by, they join your side, like anime version. You defeat the evil bad boss, and you say, "Hey, let's be friends." They're like, "Oh yeah, let's be friends."
Yeah, that was a champion idea I had.
Gotcha. I've seen it in so many animes. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, just defeated you. Let's be friends. Okay.
Because yeah, in my mind, champions are going to be possibly harder than bosses, but that's more complicated stuff. But yeah, I think yes. Okay, so we're saying there's going to be a turn order. We're saying it's not going to be heroes go, enemies go. It's going to be a per character order, based on. Do we want to base it on a stat, or do we just want to base it purely on a roll?
Well, even in D&D, your dexterity does have a modifier.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
applied
Do we
extra
want to
stuff.
base it on a stat, or is it purely on a roll?
I mean, like again, in D&D, you still roll.
Yeah. But
But-
you're also basing it on the stat because it modifies it. It's not purely based on the roll. Do we just want 12 people roll 12 dice? Whoever's highest goes first. Whoever's lowest goes last. No way to modify it and on the roll, but you can possibly modify it while you're playing your rounds. Or
Okay, so
do
now-
we want the ability for you to be able to manipulate, again, going down the D&D way, do we base it on a speed stat plus a roll, so that you can then kind of try to guarantee your order by pumping more assets into speed? If you are, that means then that is, I think, a mark for having player stats, because then you would base it on a player stat of speed, which then maybe your armor can boost, or
So-
not, depending on what's going on. Whereas if you're basing it on a pure roll, then none of that matters.
So if we thought about it from a different perspective, not to really get ahead of ourselves, how likely? So if we did it based upon more like you do get a randomness for the order, but you can change it, right?
Yeah.
To me, that translates more easily to a card base, an actual physical card game base, right? Versus you just roll, right?
Mhm.
Or it's modified by an attribute. That's more like how I remember Blackstone or Nemesis, whatever we were playing, that was doing that, where you see the initiative. So basically, you have phases. Basically, I'm getting at. You have
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying.
initiative phase.
Are we having a round 0 where you can start to play with initiative? Because I don't. What I don't think you can do in a card game like this is I don't think you can do. Let's call it a fight, and a fight has rounds, right? I don't think you can do a fight and have every round have a phase. I don't think that would work particularly well. Whereas if you have like a round 0, so everybody rolls, and maybe it's completely random. Maybe we link it to a stat, but everybody rolls, and then maybe you can spend some of your first round mana, or there's some kind of other point system where you can say, actually, I'm going to spend a mana point so I can move myself up the order, or maybe I want to push myself down the order because maybe as the tank, because of my set, I want to take a shit ton of damage because every damage I take increases the damage I put out when I finally swing, right? So I want to be last. I never want to be first.
Oh, that was like one of my favorite characters. There was a City of Villains. It's I don't know if you ever played it. They made a character. It's like it's basically your hero.
Yeah.
They made a character. It was City Heroes was the first one. City of Villains was the second one. City of Villains, they had a tank character that the more damage he took, the harder he hit. That was my favorite class. You just jump into something, they beat the shit out of you,
and I like
you're
that.
just like destroying people.
And then like based on initiative order, because then if it's just the roll and they roll the 20, which is the highest, and they're going first, they're going to be like, oh fuck. Because I think what we would also say is that by and large, every round in a fight would wipe away most of what you've built up. You know what I mean? Like, if I play an armor card, actually, that's a very good point when you've got a turn order like that. Like, if I play an armor card, does my armor stay forever until it's destroyed? Hey, Trentner, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Or does it disappear at the end of a round?
I think it should disappear, but give you the means of through a card to mitigate that, right?
Or a set power. So you're saying that on the basic rule is it degrades, but you can change that through gameplay.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's how Across the Obelisk does it. You get armor, it stays until obviously it's broken, or the turn ends. When the turn ends, you lose all your armor, unless you have like a little status buff. That says you keep any armor and it carries over.
Yeah, no, I like that, and because again, it means that you can put that as a base power in a class. Because you could say that the initial bread baker tank always keeps his armor or something. That's the class perk, because probably every class needs at least one perk, and we'll work on that. All right. Okay, so are we saying turn order then? We're going to do basically a phase 0, which is everybody rolls, and you can then spend something, probably going to be mana, maybe cards.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
All right. So we roll initiative, right?
Uh-huh.
And say, for example, I'm playing the healer, right?
Yep.
Traditionally, you want the healer to go last, right? So they can recover from the damage done in that turn, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. If you're a healer that heals, yes.
So if we're saying if we're going to allow, say, for example, mana to affect, say, for example, it's say it's tank, boss, the rogue baker, a couple other mobs, and then the healer happens to be third one, right?
Yep.
And you're sitting there looking at it, it's like, really, I'd like to go last. So if we're expending mana to shift, should it be based upon how you're doing the shift? So if you expend mana, you shift up. If you gain mana, you shift down. Like if I want to go last, I could potentially get 3 extra mana.
No, because I think you're wanting to go last because that's an advantage to you.
Okay.
So I think if you're moving yourself around, it's because you're trying to get the advantage that way. Because it doesn't because that would seem really unfair to, let's say, and maybe you can't even move all the way around. Maybe, is this what Blackstone Fortress did? You could only swap with other players?
There was, Blackstone had the feature where you roll the die. Like if certain characters affect, certain characters, there was a 2+.
Yeah.
And most of the time there's a 4+. And if you did it, you could swap, right? But you could also shift characters around by another die roll as well. I mean, it was dependent upon because I think Ryway was usually playing the character that could do that.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I remember now. Because you could swap with the person next to you for free, if I remember correctly.
Something like that.
But then you could roll, and then you could swap with whoever was that many places distant or something. Yes, I vaguely remember it now. See, I like this idea. I like the idea that because what you're saying in the balance is that I'm spending mana. If I only want to move down one spot, and then again, we'd have to decide, okay, do you spend mana to roll to see how far you can move down the line? Or do we say, well, if you spend one mana, you can move... Because again, every fight may have more or less monsters in it, right? Depending on how you want to move.
I was thinking that what you rolled also dictated what you could do. Like if you rolled a 6, you could like shift creatures. And I'd have to go play Blackstone again to actually figure that out again.
Yeah, but what you're saying is that you would spend mana to roll another die, and then that would give you the options on how you move. Rather than there being a set, I spend one mana, I can move 3 spaces back, up to 3 spaces back, or 3 spaces forward, depending on what I want to do. I could spend 2 mana and I can go 6 either way.
Something like that, yes.
Those were 2 different options. One is you spend mana to roll a dice, which I think makes sense. One is you spend mana for a guaranteed movement of up to X spaces.
I don't know if I would say expend mana to guarantee move. Maybe, I don't know, because right now we're basically ripping off like a whole bunch of different games.
This is how games are made. This is how games are made.
I don't know. I mean,
I like the idea that you spend mana to roll a dice, and that possibly you can pick up things that would change what so you'd have a standard table on a D6. I spend 1 mana, I roll the die. 1 is I don't move. 2 is I have to swap with one of the heroes. 3 is I can move 2 enemies around anywhere I want. 4 is I need to swap with an enemy. 5 is I can do something, and then 6 is I can move everybody. Who gives a shit? But I like that idea because it adds a little bit more randomness to your mana spend. Having a second birthday about half an hour ago was nearly head-on collision. Oh, shit. Wet, snow, and rain alternate. Visibility is really bad. Stay safe, Tretner. So I like that because, yeah, like I say, that adds a little bit of randomness. You could try and make it an either or, I guess, which should say is 1 mana is risk the dice, or you can move 1 back, 1 forward based on what it is you want to do. Dice, more risk, more rewards. Depending on what you roll, the other one is guaranteed. Basically, you spend 1 mana to either nudge or actually roll.
Okay. I do know, unlike Darkstone, we will need to have very tight bounds on how it's done because we always argued and talked about that so much when we're doing that.
Well, again, I think that you make the rules incredibly clear based on the dice, based on the die rolls, or if we do a bunt idea. Because again, you would have to choose: am I spending my mana to move up 1 or down 1, or am I spending my mana to roll a die? I can't roll the die first and then decide to go backwards and do it the guaranteed way. As soon as you've decided to gamble, you're gambling. You're sold, right?
So if that's the case, though, hypothetically, boss rolls a 20 on initiative, right?
Yep, she's going first.
I roll a 15.
Yeah.
Right? Should I be allowed to expend 1 mana to bump myself above the boss?
Yes,
that basically
because
destroys their 20.
Because no, because the dice roll isn't a value as such. It's just a way of giving a number to someone for a queue, right? And we are then giving the ability to bump up and down that queue, not based on the number, but we're giving you the ability to move up and down, right? So think of it like you've gone to a deli and you've taken a ticket from the counter, right? You've taken number 20, someone has got number 5, right? I then have the ability that I can swap my ticket 20 with the guy who's number 5. So I'm now 5th in the queue, right? Because again, we want this kind of initiative nonsense is one way we're giving power to the player.
So how do you handle ties? If the boss rolls a 20, I roll a 20, does it always go to the
player
player?
would always go first,
Okay.
unless it's a boss. Right? So if it's just in a normal floor, or an elite, I think player wins. If you're doing boss or champion, champion wins. Because again, boss and champions, we're trying to be hard fights for the player. We're trying to fuck with them until they're powerful
Yeah, but
enough.
it's more rewards too. If you defeat a champion, you should have a better chance of getting things, I would assume.
If you defeat a champion, it's better loot. It's different loot tables.
Yes, okay.
Right? So to me, I would say if you decide to fight a champion, you will get a set piece. Whether it's a set piece that you want or you need, we don't know, right? But you will get a set piece, or at least a shit ton of currency towards a set piece, right? Whereas if you avoid the champion because you're less likely to die, you're not going to get it. I also think you would say if we're going to make trinkets to really powerful stuff, you would probably limit trinkets to champions, maybe, or something like that. And then the boss fight really is... Do you know, I think I would actually only do champion. I think if you roll a 20, both two, if you roll a 20, the hero would still go first. Because the boss fight is really us just saying, are you powerful enough to go on to the next floor? Because the next floor, you need to be power level 200. If you can't beat this boss, you're not going to have a fun time.
Okay.
Right? So we're saying bosses are your level checks, and you are your power checks. Whereas champions are meant to be fuckers. Right, because I'm not thinking a champion is an elite from Slay the Spire because I've already got someone the elite level. An elite is a tough fight that you should win. A champion is a tough fight that you probably won't win until you're overpowering it.
Yeah, I mean, if we keep keeping the consistency of the actual level design, like we talked earlier, it's free. You don't have to go to the champion place if you don't want to.
No,
or. That's the thing I was going to ask about the level base.
Yeah.
Are we going to make some of it hidden, like have a fog of war, where like you can see certain things, like maybe there's doors closed, right?
Yeah.
Should you be able to know what's behind that door?
So here's what I was thinking on that is, in general, no. But I believe boss doors and champions doors should look different. So you would definitely know there's something bad behind that fight, and possibly even an elite door should look different because it's slightly harder. But I don't think we want to differentiate between is this going to be a fight or is this going to be an encounter of some sort. An encounter being like a shop, a random text piece, story piece, whereas a fight is a fight.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense. So, and yes, I think. Oh God, we'd have to put in a mini map.
We were going to have to anyways.
So I think when you enter, you only know the room that you're in. Now, whether we decide you enter into a fight, it's always a guaranteed fight, first room. So you have to go through the fight and then you choose your doors. Or if we do decide there is like an entrance way, and maybe in that entrance way is where you can craft, shop, do your cards for that particular floor. Basically the town idea from Across the Obelisk, right? Whether we put that into each dungeon.
I guess I was thinking, if we're going to go lean into that idea, like the first place is like you in a camp, right?
Yeah.
And you're basically preparing for the dungeon. And then once you step into the dungeon, it's the first fight.
Okay, so yeah, so I think we would then say that you go into a dungeon, first room's always a fight.
Yeah.
100% guaranteed fight. You would then have certain doors. I think there should also be secret doors. I don't know how we would play that into how people discover them. We'd have to think about that. But I like the idea that there could be secret doors, but that leads more into the idea that a dungeon is a set design. Because then maybe you have to go and find a switch, and then the switch opens a door back from where you come or something like that kind of idea. Because then you can have set encounters as well as random encounters.
Well, we could lean into that a little bit more too. Say, for example, they just did a fight, right? And they decided like, hey, we do this fight, and oh look, there's a button. Now we have a chance for another risk reward feature, right?
Yeah.
Is it a button to open the secret passageway somewhere?
Yeah.
Or is it a trap?
Is it a trap? Yeah. But those are encounters, right? Do you want to have... Because this is another way we can handle encounters. We could say that every room is a fight. But once you win the fight, there's an encounter afterwards that you can either ignore or do.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
rather than having if I go into a room, is this going to be an encounter room? Is this going to be a fight? With the only exceptions then being champions, boss, elite, and shop. Whatever a shop would do. We may not even need a shop in the dungeons, honestly, with how we're designing this game now.
Well, I was kind of always envisioning, you do the dungeon, you go in, you basically do the zone. Would you say zone? Not necessarily a dungeon, because dungeon implies to me it's underground. But the zone, right?
Let's
And you always
say
come back to town.
dungeon. Let's say dungeon. Doesn't have to be underground, but
Yeah, would you say
whatever it is.
You
yes.
go in and then you come back out and you go back to town.
Yeah,
Basically, it's the whole D&D
you go in
perspective.
and you can only go out once you've beaten the boss or you've died,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay.
Hey, that makes sense. But then you don't have to have done the champion. You don't have to have done all of the rooms. If you found a straight path, if you've reached the boss after 2 rooms and you feel powerful enough to fight him, hey, do it. Why not? Because we are given the ability to walk backwards, right? And just...
Yeah.
What game did that? What game am I thinking of?
I don't know of a game that does that. Most of them are just, you pick the path and that's the path you got.
Was it the Conan game we played?
Conan game?
I know that wasn't the card game. Well, Isaac lets you wander backwards and forwards anyway. So yeah, I think being able to wander backwards and forwards, that does mean we can put in things further on that might open a secret backwards.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily tell them it's done that. They'd have to go back and look. Just do you hear a sound from somewhere else. Yeah, like that kind of thing. Yeah.
I have not heard the song for golly.
I think it was on the starboard bow. Good old Star Trek.
Figures.
By unknown.
Should have known.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so classes, generic cards, but obviously copied per class so we can flavor them.
Yeah.
I believe every class should be allowed to be able to do damage. So I think there would be basic damage per class, regardless of what they are.
Okay.
And then on a class, you then basically put in. So let's say they start with a deck of 10. The tank, the tank that I originally designed would very much be 5 basic attacks, and then probably 5. Maybe 3 shield cards and 2 taunt cards. Right, so his whole play style is he's going to try and armor up and taunt the enemies to hit him while also doing a little bit of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Right, damage dealer would have his 5 generic damage cards and then probably have 5 other damage cards. Well, maybe 3 damage cards which are higher damage for the same cost because he's a damage dealer, and then 2 flower cards so he can blind. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even from the start, you're trying to build in combos. Maybe you put in the blind because if someone is blind, it then does double damage to the blind target, or the flower target, whatever flower's going to do, right? And then from the healer, because they are a triage healer, I think that's the word I've been looking for. They again would be 5 attack cards and then 5 probably single target heals, just different, and they're all muffins.
You're sticking to the muffin idea. I got you.
For that guy, yeah, he's the muffin man. He bakes muffins. He throws muffins at enemies, and he throws healing muffins at people, right? And then I think that works for kind of like the basic run, and then we'd have to think about the flavor cards, like, for triage healing, you normally put in spells that can either chain heal or ones that do heals over time, all that kind of stuff. Now, whether we decide we never really power up the basic cards, we put all of this into sets. I think this is the important thing. Is like, are attack cards always fairly basic, or all cards fairly basic, with all kind of power ups like chain heal, heal over time, multi target, all that kind of stuff. Does that come from armor? Does that come from sets?
Maybe we do provide an ability for like the higher tier things to, for example, chain heal, right? The easy version, why you would use it if you're just single player, regardless. Say you have four other friends playing with you.
Yeah.
The easy version, it changed from the person you cast to one other person. Now the moderate may change it too, and so on and so forth. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, so you're thinking there would be a chain heal card
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
rather than on my set every time I play a heal it changed to 4 people.
See, that's the question. I mean, they kind of do the same thing. So we need to decide: do we want the cards to upgrade, or do we want the armor to upgrade?
Yes. So that's what I was saying. Do we want the cards to always be fairly basic, with really the only difference in the cards being that they become more expensive to cast because they do more flat healing or flat damage, right? So a 1-cost card will do 1 damage, a 2-cost card will do 2 damage, and a 3-cost card will do 3 damage. But then based on your set, that 3 damage could become 30,000. And then the same with healing. So I have a 2-cost heal card. It now does 50 healing, but my set then chains 10% of that to everybody else. Right? Or is it pure deck building, in which case armors don't really make a lot of sense, and you would put everything onto trinkets, it would be set powers, which is then, okay, you have a chain heal, but then I might get a trinket, which then ups the number of targets chain heal might hit.
I guess I was thinking that the card upgrade would increase the damage, heal, and potentially damage and heal is what you're saying. And then
Well, it would also be armor for because I think armor is something you would get from a card and would be a stat.
So basically the 3 base things.
Yeah, damage, armor, heal.
Armor, damage, heal.
Yeah.
That's what the cards would affect.
Yeah.
But upgraded cards would affect that.
Yeah.
Now the armor set abilities modifies how those interact.
Rather than calling it armor on cards, should it be shield? Because we're going to have armor sets. Should we change it to shields or like barrier or something like that?
Barriers probably a little bit better.
This is just something that I know will lead to confusion down the line. So we say cards do damage, they give you barrier, or they heal you. It's basically what we're saying cards do. Yeah. With no. Okay, so I think so I think chain heal, stuff like that, I think that makes sense going on the armor.
Mm-hmm.
But what you could do is you could have a card which is playing with the summon idea. So I then summon a totem, a healing totem. So that would be a card. I would play and maybe that goes into my constant slot where we're like talking with traps and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then because then that can heal as a turn of its own, can also be attacked, but that can heal of a turn of its own. And then maybe I can just go more damage as healer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I would like the ability to do, I think, and where I think the card draw comes into the game, is depending on the armor set I'm using and maybe the summons I've got, I then go from, okay, I don't really need to heal anymore, so I'm going to burn my healing cards and I'm going to take more damage cards. Or maybe I'm going to take more mitigation cards for barrier or something like that.
That's where the Across the Obelisk game leaned into it as, for example, the first guy you get is basically just direct healing.
Yeah.
All he cares about is direct healing.
Yeah.
The next guy, he was more of the pig guy. He was more of a mitigation healer. Yeah. He would throw shields. He would do all the other stuff. The other chick she was more of like a shadow priest.
Yes.
So she healed based upon the damage. And the third guy is basically more of a controller healer, where he does things like reduces your damage and does stuff like that, and heals based upon the number of stacks of that. So,
So, okay. What if we get rid of the idea of character-based classes? Right? So like you were just explaining there, you had human, priest, pig, man, and all the others, right? And they basically brought perks, so you would play them differently, right? Because they had different strengths.
Okay.
Let's say, instead of going down that road, we do, okay, I make my character. I make Avril Lavigne. Why not?
Okay.
Avril Lavigne is my character, right? And they all start with base stats, right? 1 damage, 1 barrier, 1 heal, right? So they can go anywhere they want. I can pick cards based on how I want to do it. I've got, let's say, starting deck of 10. It would probably be less than that. I think you start with 5 and Slay the Spy. I can't remember, but anyway. I got my starting deck. It's my first character, so I've got 100 gold, and I've only got basic ass cards, right?
Yeah.
Buy my cards because I know, okay, I want to play a little bit of tank, but a little bit of healer rather than damage tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
We then do basically armor sets become your class archetypes, right? So you would get an armor set, which is basically Whirlwind Barbarian. Okay, I pick that up, I can wear it on my character, and I can take the cards that I need to make that work, right?
Okay, so
A set then drops, which is basically Lightning Ball Wizard, right?
Mhm.
I can still wear that set as the character. I may even be able to mix and match my sets and be a Lightning Wizard tank.
So like more like you're leaning into the ability to multi-class almost.
I'm leaning into the ability that all class abilities and perks come from armor rather than any other aspect.
I like that.
So that then means that if a weapon, a staff drops and it does lightning damage, it's not wasted on me. I can store that. I might be able to use it. Maybe I pick up something that converts lightning damage into healing somehow. I don't know how that would work. That would be a good trinket. Cleave will be terrible.
Yep.
Unless you pick up the Rydog set.
Yeah, the Red Dog set is the only time it works.
Yeah, Rydog set. Every attack is cleave. Cleave kills everybody, including your party members.
It's the trinket. It's the Rydog trinket.
The Rydog trinket, yes.
There you go.
Yeah, I've played games that do classes like that. You know, you start your character and then you're not a class. You basically react to what you pick up. And then this gets interesting because then we could then have stats, damage, armor, healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever else can feed into that. I think just the base 3 works, honestly, for what we're designing. Because we're not having speed, because we're saying initiative order is based on dice rolls with a phase 0 to move them around. So we don't need like initiative. We're not going to have like lock-picking puzzles, probably. Or if they are puzzles, it's something you would work out logically rather than based on a character roll.
So let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if we actually fully answered it yet, but cards, right?
Yeah.
We haven't really. Have we decided how they're going to be discovered? Because I have an idea.
No, we haven't got that far yet.
Okay. The idea
We've only got base cards.
Okay. The idea I had
Yeah.
was there was a game. It's an old game, but what you did was you found ruins,
Uh-huh.
and you could combine those runes to cast spells.
Right.
And you physically had to draw them. You picked them, and so you picked like the rune A, B, and D or whatever, and it made this effect. I was thinking that'd be kind of neat if you could say, I mean, we could lean into we could even lean into the baking, the cake atmosphere, and say you found these type of ingredients. I guess.
Yes, okay, all right. No, I like this. So, because I don't know if we'd actually discussed this on stream, but we'd already discussed that for the first floor, the boss would be the Victoria Sponge, and the enemies.
Possibly.
Well, I think as we designed this first run, the boss is a Victoria Sponge, but yes, eventually, possibly. But so because the boss is a Victoria Sponge, the enemies on the floor will be the ingredients of a Victoria Sponge, right?
Yep.
Taking that idea, if we then beat up a 6-pack of eggs, right? Eggs normally come in half dozen or a dozen. So let's say we pick up. So what are we then saying? That an egg would drop a component, like an egg-based component, like a yolk, a shell, something like that, and then. Would we then say that every card, so let's say we have our basic attack card. So let's say there's only ever the basic cards, right? Stick with me here. There's only ever 5 damage cards, 5 barrier cards, 5 healing cards, right? That's it. But the easy damage, all of the easy cards have 2 rune slots, basically, or ingredient slots, right?
Mhm.
So if I put a shell in an attack card, I attack plus get barrier because I've added barrier effect to that card.
I guess I was thinking it's a way to unlock the cards, also a means of unlocking cards, right?
But
But I
we're,
see where you're going with that too.
well, because we're going with the idea that really there won't be that many cards to unlock. I think this is the problem with the armor sets, is because we're saying that you, like the power creep and the improvement to all your spells comes from the armor sets.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I like your idea better though.
So if that's true, then the cards we there's not going to be that many cards unless they're really, really powerful cards. Like that summoning that like summon totem heal card, to me that
Mhm.
would be like you, and going back to your idea, you defeat the Victoria Sponge, I can now summon the Victoria Sponge because I got that card. Right?
Okay.
And any one of the players can take that card. There's only one card, right? Think of like pets from across the obelisk as well, right?
It's almost like a trinket card. It should only be used once per, basically once per run.
No, I don't.
Not once per run.
I don't think
I
so. Right? I think that would be a card that you could basically. It's a power card, so I play it and it stays in effect for the entire fight.
I said that wrong. I meant that once you finish the run and you started over, you wouldn't have access to the Victoria Sponge then?
I think you should.
Okay.
I think you should because I think that is what gives that is how you increase the card power. Now, what you might say is that you don't start with it in your hand because I think we can go back to this idea that you only ever start with, you don't buy your hand to start with, or that, well, you kind of do, but you can only buy the base cards. You can get eggs in a dozen and a half. Really?
Well,
Wow.
right.
So
And yeah, you get them in 18. You can get them in 18, yeah.
oh, we only get 6 and 12s here. Maybe 24s if you're lucky.
Oh, we
I've
can
never
get
seen an
cases.
18.
You can get cases here. Cases of eggs.
Um,
Which, oddly enough, go get bought out real easily around Halloween time.
but yeah, so but if we're saying that you've only ever got access to the basic cards, right? And then but you can upgrade those cards by basically taking ingredients. You'd probably have to get like, let's say you have to get 50 shells to be able to mix it together and put it onto your card, right? Or something. Probably not that many.
I like this idea.
So then I can upgrade one of my damage cards for the shell. That card is upgraded forever. Right?
Forever or for the run?
Forever. Right? So that damage card plus barrier now exists forever, and I can put it into my hand, and it's the same cost as the base card. Right? But it's only got 1 rune slot.
Oh, because you're treating ingredients like ruins now.
Right? Yes, basically ingredients are your runes or your parts
Okay.
or whatever, right?
And that would lean into the more advanced cards then, right? Because then if you had like a moderate level, maybe you have 2 runes.
Moderate level, more base whatever it does. So damage goes from 1 to 2 as an example,
Mhm.
plus 2 rune slots. Right? And then you would have to do the farming again. Maybe you can dismantle the basic card that's got the eggshell on it to get some back. Maybe you can't. I don't know. But then that way, what you can do is you can, based on the cards, decide that, okay, I'm going to be, right, I'm playing into the tank. I've got my set. And my set is based on, however much barrier I've got up. Maybe okay. So hang on, let me think this through. So the set is however much barrier I got built up when I attack, I do that much more damage, right? But on the card, when I play my damage card, it's also got the effect that every time I put barrier up, I heal the people behind me, or I spread the barrier out to everyone behind me, like something like that, some basic thing. So then you can then start to mix the cards and the sets to do 2 different things, right? So you can then become Healy Tank, right? So every time I do damage, because based on my card, every time I do damage, I heal not only myself, but I heal everybody behind me. I forgot I had the Wob Wob animation still up. I think that works, right? Because then what we're saying is you're not necessarily unlocking different cards, but I think there should be 2 rune slots from the start, because you can then start to mix and match. So, okay, an egg drops a shell, but it also drops a yolk, and a yolk is how you heal for some reason, right? But then I can then mix and match. So I'm then putting barrier on myself, plus I'm healing myself for a little bit based on that 1 attack card.
I mean, we could do lots of things. Like, I don't know, a piece of carrot will let you, when you attack, you can see what the characters, the enemy's going to do. Like you can do stuff like that, because that gives you sight. Because carrots, supposedly give you better sight. Whatever.
So I think that works. So I think what we're saying is that the classes, the perks, and the set armors really are going to be our classes, right?
Yeah.
So as a character, when you go in, you're not really anything. You're just a guy. You're just a dude.
Yeah.
You've turned up and you're going to go and kick the ass out of a Victoria Sponge, right? Because they told you to. And then based on that, based on the ingredients you get, and I think it should be fairly easy, because what you can then say, the way you build up cards is, so when I start, I've only got 5 copies of a damage card with 2 rune slots, right? But as I go through the run, I can get more copies of that same damage card with 2 empty rune slots. But then I can start to play around with all the different ingredients in those cards and decide which ones I want to take.
Now,
right?
Here's something that we can lean into with kind of blending the, probably not exactly blending everything together, but for example, I'm a random schmo. Whatever. I get magically transported to Realm of Keiki. Right? And now all these things are cakes and butter and eggs and all these things, right?
Yep.
And I'm trying to adventure and find my way back home.
Yep.
Okay. Or a group of people do it, however you want to do it. So now this leans a little bit into your writing, right? A little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we base the game kind of sort of off of Cake Land,
yeah,
right, and you're writing on it, it actually sounds like the plot from there's a what was that anime I watched recently where you had like a shield hero, a sword hero.
I was just thinking of the cartoon they based around the Nintendo gun.
Oh, well. Apparently, a lot of people borrow this idea. It's not something I came up with. But anyways,
it's also the plot to most Ultima games. But
Yeah, but I was just thinking that we could lean into your writing, so you can do some writing.
No,
and
I agree
behind the writing,
because I was also thinking about this, because I was like, okay, the first area of free, I think makes sense to all be cakes, right? And then I think the kind of greater rift, if you like, because I still like the idea of basically there being a constant thing that people can run that just gets harder and harder and harder. Like once you've gone through the main game, I think we should do more difficult versions of the main game as well. But I do like this idea that there's something you can just run against again and again and again.
Okay.
As well. But then what you could say is that once you've done the 3 dungeons in Zone 1, which is Cake Land, right? The next zone, I think I would probably try and keep them all fair. Well, no, maybe just go completely different, because then you can go random. So the fact that everything is kind of more baking related, the fact that your weapons are going to be baking related, because again, I think we should have weapons in this, which will be part of the armor sets, but do different things. So again, like staffs, whisks, rolling pins, saucepans, stale breads,
a
broom, all that kind of stuff, right? The fact that everything is kind of baking related and the first one makes sense. Yes, you could then say, well, the next one is very stereotypical Star Wars ripoff land, right?
The next one.
Well, DLC, come on. Expansion packs.
Okay, man. I'd rather get the first one done first.
No, come on. But no, I'm not even saying it has to be an expansion pack, right? Because what you can say is, okay, this is the first land, the first fights, and they go up to power level 500. Because what you could say is, rather than doing although I think you should do both, rather than doing a more difficult version of Cake Land, once you defeated Cakeland, you've got the thing you can run against constantly, which is Cake Fiend. But you also unlock Chapter 2, which is Star Wars Spaceship Land, right? You're probably going to take your Bake character into that land, but then it's full of stormtroopers, laser guns, all that kind of stuff, right?
I see where you're going, yeah.
And we can lean into that, and then you can mix and match. So I can be a baker with a laser gun. I can be a baker with a boombox. I just want to be a baker with a boombox.
A boombox. Boombox. Okay.
Oh, did you never see the Hero Forge model I made for myself?
No.
Oh, dear. It's me sitting down in a pink tuxedo with a baguette and a boombox underneath me. When do we get Lego Cake World? Well, I mean, once you're big enough, Lego will partner with anyone, apparently. So maybe.
This is just a small beginning.
But yeah, so because again, I think you would do what's a natural? Well, we would have to do more than. What would you say? Per land, free delves, dungeons, zones, whatever you want to call them.
Here you go.
That's pretty good. And yeah, we'll obviously we'll just concentrate on Cakeland. We won't try and go above. But yeah, so Cakeland, free dungeons, areas, whatever, that you're going to play through. Free floors, whatever it is.
Well, I think it's going to be random. Like, I mean, even like with Cross Obelisk, they started with 3, right? You went through red, you had a choice, red or green. You did red or green. Then you did basically did the other one and you were done.
Yeah.
And it said, thank you for playing the game. We continue basically blah, blah, blah. And now they've got like the blue and the yellow one now, plus the actual end boss, which the end boss zone is stupidly difficult.
Yeah, I don't like the end boss. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, so let's say we keep it simple. Cakeland has got 3 dungeons, right? Each dungeon is, I don't know, 20 rooms. Whatever. One of those will be a champion. One of those will be the boss. The 18 other rooms. The first one is. No, hang on. Whatever. Free. So I think in Zone 1, you would say the bosses, and this is purely off the top of my head, the bosses would either be Victoria Sponge, Chocolate Eclair, or a ring donut. Right? Those are your selection of bosses on Zone 1.
Okay.
Yeah. You would then go to Zone 2, and then maybe I don't think you want to make the floors bigger. I just think you want to make the fights harder. So maybe they're always 20 rooms, just random number they plucked out of nowhere. But the bosses there would then still be cakes, but different cakes. I would have to try and come up. Probably I'll do another stream. The relative difficulty and boss level of cakes. But then, like, so for the second one, you might have a choice of 3 bosses or like a random choice of 3 bosses. And remember that the boss sets the enemies on the floor. So we'd have to link all of this together. But most of them, because they're cakes, would be shared. So you'd always have like eggs, milk, flour. But let's say in the second one, you can have a muffin. The end boss has got to be Guernsey Gosh. So yeah, you would have like a muffin, an Eccles cake, and
a souffle.
Is a souffle a cake?
I don't know.
That's a question. But yeah, souffle, right? And then third one would be
German chocolate.
Yeah, German chocolate cake.
With the specific hat on, a specific type of hat on. No, that'd be too.
Swiss roll and a scone or a scone, right? Because I think in Slay the Spire, the bosses on the first floor are a random set of X, and then the bosses on the second. Or you could say there's 9 possible bosses, and they can appear anywhere. There's not a huge amount of difference between that, really.
I mean, other than like as each level goes, they would get more progressively difficult. We may have to have specific cards or specific moves or abilities the boss has?
I think so, because I think so very basically, because I think of this as if this was a card game I was playing on a table, right, without any kind of program logic in it.
Yes.
So my idea would be, okay, I reached the sponge on floor 1, so I'm going to use his AI deck, which only has 4 cards in it.
Yeah.
Right, so he does 4 things. If I meet him in zone 2, his AI deck's going to have 5 things in it, and he might have a bit more health, right?
Mhm.
And then if I meet him in the 3rd one, he's the final boss, apart from maybe the super secret final boss, who is a piece of gosh. The final boss has got to be my emote, right?
Sure.
I feel like Piece of Cake probably has to be the final boss. This guy right here.
Okay.
Super secret final boss. And I can tell you the deck of cards he would have would be terrible.
It'd be like fighting Santa again.
It'd be like fighting Santa, yeah. So yeah, I think that I don't know how easy it would be to have a. I think a subset of bosses, like per level, like you'd have level 1 bosses, level 2 bosses, level 3 bosses. Would that be easier or harder? I feel like that would be easier, but
I mean, yes, but I do like the randomness of it.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's fine. Maybe we don't. I don't know. Maybe we don't make randomness of the boss. Just go like, okay, this is a Victorian Sponges area. If you want to go there to pick up their ingredients and stuff like that to modify your cards, you go there. But then you can, does that make sense? Kind of like, for example, across the obelisk, you start your starting zone, right? Once you get done the starting zone, you get to pick where you want to go next, right? So something like that, maybe.
Yes,
I don't
but
know.
you can only visit 4 in total, 3 in total before you hit the
3
big boss.
plus the end. 3 plus the end.
That
3
works,
including-
especially because if we're saying we want people to farm sets, and if sets are going to be, I don't think the same boss should drop the whole set.
I agree. Sorry.
So yeah, I think giving people the ability to vaguely choose a direction of the run, I think makes sense. Like they can choose the area, but we're not giving them the Slay the Spire across the obelisk idea where you can then, once you're in the area, plan your entire run. Right?
Yeah.
Because we're doing hidden random paths,
Yeah.
which don't have to be linear because we're allowing you to go backwards and forwards. So you can reach a dead end and have to turn back around and find your way through. Yeah?
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. So we then have an overland map, and you can say, right, I'm going to go to Victoria. Maybe you always have to go to Victoria Cake Land first, or maybe you can just choose. Like maybe we say, well, these are the level 1 to 3 bosses or whatever. Or are we just saying that? Okay, if you go, say there's 9. Say you're on an island in the middle, and you've got 9 bridges, or whatever. Do we want to give people the ability to be able to go, all right, I want to go to Victoria Cake Land, come back, go to Eclair Land, come back, that'd be level 2, and then go to Muffin Land, go back. I've done my 3 areas. I can't now do the rest.
Okay.
Right? Is that how we want it to work? Do we want people to be able to do we want to have bosses go up to level 9? So you can then say, no, I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do we then say, well, if you face a boss at level 3, either it drops different set items or it's more likely to drop the same set items?
Are you talking about like the difficulty level? Right?
Well, yeah, because remember, so you're going to have a difficulty level per zone, right? Because floor 1 should be easier than floor 3 if we're just going to do 3 floors. But we're also then saying that we might do hard mode.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yes.
if I decide to, I decide to fight Victoria Sponge level 1, do they drop boots? Have a chance to drop boots? if I fight Victoria Sponge on level 3, is that how they has the chance to drop the hat? The Victoria Sponge armor set hat.
I kind of like spreading them out because, for example, you have, we'll just say 6 zones.
Yeah.
But you can only pick 3.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously, if you're getting the boots, right, and you know the boots are in Victoria Sponge, you try to go there. You
Yep.
get the boots, great. Now you can either decide to go to the next place. But then what's the replayability of Victoria Sponge again? I see where you're going with that.
Oh, no, you would never go back to Victoria Sponge in a single run. The Victoria Sponge is dead in that run. So you have to go to one of the other 5 zones.
I meant like if you were to replay it. Like once you got done with the run, say, for example, you got done with Victoria Sponge, you could come back to town, say it's good, I'm going to cash out.
Yeah.
Play it again. Why would you ever want to go back to Victoria Sponge? They don't have to drop the boots again. But
Well, because I think we would have to work on the sets to make sure that the Victoria Sponge would have to drop more than just the boots.
Yeah.
But it comes down to, do we then say it's guaranteed? Well, not guaranteed, but only boots at level 1. Fight them at level 2, you might get boots and chest. If you fight them at level 3, there's the option for all of that set. Or would we rather like put say 6? So there's 6 zones. So let's say a set is 6 pieces, right? Because that just works.
Okay.
So, and we would then have multiple sets.
Yes.
Right. So do we then say, no, actually, for you to get every set, for me to get a set, do I have to fight Victoria Sponge at well, we can't do every difficulty level because you can't get up to level 6. So I think what you would say is that every boss would drop parts of different sets.
Yes.
And then maybe you just change the percentage likelihood or maybe the quality a little bit based on what level you fight them at.
I think quality is what we decided earlier would be based upon the levels, the quality of the item. Because we said you can craft all sets, right? You can craft it. Bear in mind, you can just craft it. So, you go back and, okay, well, you're basically locked into easy level quality of sets until you actually go up to the moderate and start getting those essences, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that would be the way to go. But I do think that the bosses should drop different levels as well. Now, we're kind of sort of leaning, well, no, if you can craft it, I guess it doesn't matter. I was going to say we're kind of leaning back into the WoW mentality. You're always going to the same dungeon, it never drops. But if you can craft it, it doesn't really.
I think that's the thing. I think having a set loot table on the boss makes sense. Now, whether that's the boss drops the Victoria Sponge set, so you have to keep on throwing yourself against him to get it, or sets are spread out around the different bosses for a little bit more variety.
I like it spread out because it does seem to me like, hey, if you can only pick 3, right? Victoria Sponge drops boots. And the other one drops this, and the other one drops this. Okay, well, now you're done. You got to start over again.
Because I think what you would say is that Victoria Sponge has the chance of dropping boots of set 1, chest of set 2, and the hat of set 3. Right, as an example. Because the other thing that we want to encourage people to do, because I think basically Victoria Sponge should be able to drop one of any body part, for want of a better word, of the sets, right?
But it could be set 1 for boots and set 2 for gloves or something like that. Right?
Yeah, but what I don't want is because like in World of Warcraft, you had the Lich King set, right? So you had to fight the Lich King to get it. I'd rather it be that there's rather than having to fight Victoria Sponge again and again and again to get that complete set, I'd rather you go to different places. And that way you're going to build up multiple bits of different sets. And on the basis that we want to give people the ability to mix and match those sets, which is going to be fun trying to work out how that works. Then I think that makes...
It's no different than Diablo. I mean, you can pick up sets. And like if you only want the set bonus from having 3 of this one and a set bonus of having 3 from this one, if it works for your build, then that's up to you.
Right? And then they give you that ring, so you only have to have 1 less set piece.
Yeah.
So you can mix that in. So No, I think that works. I think we would say that there are loot because the other way to do it is just to say that all of the set pieces you can get from any boss, but they're locked down. A level 1 boss would only drop this set of set pieces. Level 2 boss drops this. Level 3 boss, regardless of who the boss is.
Fundamentally, what we're talking about, essentially what it boils down to, is each level should have its own loot. I mean, each boss should have its own loot table, and that should be able to be tweaked and modified accordingly from inside the code.
Yes. Okay. No. No. That was the decision I was trying to get. Is do we want every boss to have a set loot table, or do we just have a boss loot table?
I mean, I think it'd be fine. It's just to go in, because what I'm envisioning is kind of like a UI where, like, hey, you know what? This is just not working for Victoria Sponge to have this. You just go in and you say, okay, well, this is their loot table. You take it out of the loot table.
Yeah. Yeah. But we are saying that each boss is going to have their own set loot table, not a generic boss loot table.
Yes, I think that'd be. I mean, if you wanted to, you can import all of them. I mean, it's up to whoever's the designer at that point. Also known as you. Also known as future stream Keki's problem.
Oh dear.
Maybe.
All right. I think that works.
Now.
Yeah.
Since this is technically a you-me combination. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Just to whore you out a little bit more. Do you want to reach into Patreon for any of this? Or are you looking more like potentially a Kickstarter or something like that?
I think realistically, if we got to a point where we feel like we've got something, and honestly, part of me is already there. I feel like we at the core, we now have something that could be really fun. I wouldn't think of putting anything behind a money wall until I feel like we've got something that I think before I would go Patreon or anything, there would have to be a game that people could play.
Yeah, you need actually for Kickstarter, you may actually need to have a playable demo. I don't know how their rules are now, but something. That's not true, because I've seen plenty of games. It's like, hey, this is my idea. Give me money.
Yeah. You can do them. You can do them incredibly early on. But from my point of view, and again, thoughts may change because hopefully between the two of us, we've got a programmer and hopefully someone who can put together a game that's got no nice artwork or looks.
See, that's the thing. We're going to get to a point where we're going to need artwork.
Yeah, and when we get to the point where we need artwork, that is where we would probably have to look to someone who would want to be paid money to do the work.
Yeah.
Rather than the two of us doing it for free, right? So from my point of view, I would rather go on the basis that we don't try and put it behind a money wall until we have to.
Okay.
Because because from my point of view, if you put it behind Patreon, I feel that if you wanted to do a development stream, you'd have to do it to Patreon first.
Ah, good point.
Right, and then you'd have to go Twitch later or something, right? I feel like I already feel with my own Patreon that I don't do enough. I don't think I want a second one where I feel like I'm not putting anything into it. Whereas I think at this stage, we're trying to get people behind the idea, and I think the best way to do that is to just do it for free.
Okay.
And then if we decide artwork, we're just going to do asset flips and we just need to raise money for an asset pack. I've got no problem with asset flips if the game behind it is unique.
Yeah, I looked at assets and I've looked at the assets. There's not a whole lot of cake themed things.
Honestly, if the initial artwork has to be badly drawn cards by me, I mean, they probably will be, right? Because what are we thinking? Kind of basic card design, a nice picture at the top, mana cost and description on the bottom.
Yep, it's basically it.
So if we have to just have computer generated or me badly drawn images, just so we've got something to show people, I have no problem with that. But if you feel that at the point you are that you'd rather be doing this for money rather than for free, then we would have to think about
Oh no!
that first.
It would be. I guarantee you, it's going to take a long time because this would be after my work.
Yeah. And it's going to be the same for me. Like unless I stream it, this will be stuff I do outside of everything else I want to get done this year.
Yeah.
But
I'd like to have a rough thing working. I won't say in like a year, but it'd be nice to have something like that going.
that would be good. It would be good. Because so you're going to work on the basically the framework stuff.
Yeah, and all the. It's really, honestly, it's really straightforward and easy to do these things. It's just you basically have a map, you have the transitions between them, and
Yeah.
you have like the cards. The cards are just pretty much just standard classes with pictures and zones and overlays and shit like that. But then you get into what does the card do, and that's when you go in and you just pick the options what the card does. That's all you really got to do. It's pretty straightforward and easy.
Okay. All right.
The multiplayer part of it will be a little bit more difficult. Keeping people from cheating. will be a little bit more- I saw someone talking about how to solve the cheating aspect of it, and I think that's the way I will probably end up going. I'll talk to you afterwards.
I mean, it's PvE. Do we care if people cheat?
I'd like people to actually play and actually earn things versus not.
Yeah.
But I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you afterwards. About that, 'cause
If they pay for the game and they want to cheat, I'd rather they pay for the game.
that's a good point.
But yeah. Anyway,
It's an extremely interesting way of how this person solved the cheating, but I'll tell you
Okay.
afterwards.
Did we make any solid decisions?
We made quite a few actually. I have to go back and re-watch this again, but I think we have a general idea of what's going to go on.
Okay. So I guess what I'll do next is I will try and work on the. Well, what do you want me to work on next? I guess is the real question.
I mean, I guess if we could figure out a story is what you're trying to do, right?
That came out of the wrong speakers. Hey, thank you for the follow and welcome. Sorry, yeah. What does he want me to do next?
I mean, maybe a story, a general premise of why you're there, stuff like that.
To me, that's the easy part.
Oh, you say that.
That's the easy part to me. That will take me about 10 minutes. I think what we need to do is have the core gameplay loop sorted out.
Well, if you approached it from thinking of it as strictly just a card game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not like a computer or anything like that. Just this is card A that does this. This is card, so on and so forth. That would be beneficial.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I would be working on now. Is I would be working on the cards, and cards and armor sets.
Yes.
Is what I would be working on.
Okay.
For flavor and power.
We need to resolve status effects. What status effects are going to go on? We know there's potentially a blind with the flower.
As part of your framework, does it come with a basic set, or does it just come with the ability to add them?
I mean, from a programming perspective, all you do is you say this is bleed, and then you tell what it modifies.
Yeah.
Does it modify health? Does it increase or decrease health? Because a bleed programmatically is the same thing as a heal, except for the fact of it instead of increasing the health, it decreases the health.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I want anything I don't think I would want anything like sleep or freeze. I don't think I want anything that stops you having a turn. I don't mind your turn being delayed.
What about bosses? From a player character perspective.
From a player, I always feel like you want to have a turn. I feel it's annoying when you don't have a turn.
Well,
now you may want to frustrate that turn somehow, like mana sap or like a slow that overrides any kind of jiggery pokery you've done in the setup stage.
From a single player perspective, that would suck.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you're the only person,
Yeah.
and I mean, if you lost your turn, if you're
Yeah. This is what I mean. I don't think you ever want to take people's turns away. Solo
can
or
see
in
it.
groups.
I can see it in a group if you provided a means to remove that status effect. Like, again, I lean really heavily into the cross obelisks because they do it well. You can get stunned. You
I
can get
don't
frozen.
think we want to go down the road where you have to change the basic gameplay, whether you're solo or not.
Okay.
Would be my opinion on that. So I think if you can get slept for a turn or lose a turn, you'd have to be able to happen to you solo. And I have no problem with that. If we then say, well, if you've lost a turn, you can not have an effect on you where you lose a turn for the next 3 turns.
So
What
you
I
basically
don't want is
stun
a
lock.
constant. Yeah, I don't want stun lock. Lose 1 turn every 3 turns. I think is from a player, fair enough. Losing every turn and just being killed, that's not fun.
So that's actually what I did to bosses a lot inside Slave Aspire. But anyways, I'd always get the free claw cards and it'd be like, "For turn 1, okay, claw. Okay, that's it."
Dear.
But the aspect you're looking at is basically you can modify we're going back and leaning into the initiative order. You can modify their order, basically, right?
Yeah, because we're saying that you can modify the order in round 0 to make it as beneficial for you as possible.
Oh yes, there's no reason to worry about modifying the turn order then.
So then, but what we are then also saying is that during the game, you may be able to free someone out of the turn, so they skip a turn. Order stays the same, but they skip a turn. And possibly for a round, you would be able to slow somebody down so they would go from 5th to 8th, but then they would zoop back to 5th after the round ends. Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you have skipped a turn, then there's a buff put on you that you cannot skip a turn for X number of turns. So even if someone tries to cast something where you would skip a turn, like a freeze or whatever it is, or a sleep, it wouldn't affect you.
Okay.
I think that's a nice compromise.
Okay.
Because I agree, being able to miss a turn is a powerful thing. It then means that as players we can have enemies miss turns, and I think they should have the same protections. Yeah, maybe not as good, but
we're thinking about this. So the player characters themselves, their power is in their armor set, right? What about the bosses? Is their power going to be in their cards at that point?
Yes, bosses are going to be based on cards.
Okay, so I guess we'll have to design. Well, you will have to design the cards that the bosses would use.
Because then we can start to go down. If the bosses are based on cards, we can start to go down the road that possibly you can get the boss cards by beating the boss as well, or maybe that's what unlocks trinkets. But no, I think the bosses will very much be based on an AI deck, based on cards with random card draw. So you can't really. So random card draw plus shuffle. So it's not so easy to work out their pattern.
Yeah, because I don't. A lot of the card games, it's like, boss has turn 1 they do this, turn 2 they do this, turn 3 they do this, and then they repeat basically.
Yeah.
I don't much care for that. I kind of like the idea that the bosses needs to have some logic applied to it.
I'm not sure if we're thinking logic, but I think we are thinking a kind of card-based intelligence, right? Because logic seems to imply that the boss would go, "Oh, I've been hurt. I must heal." I don't think we're going that far.
I would think you would, though.
I think you would probably say, okay, a boss may have a heal card. Boss can draw free cards. Boss will play free cards. If one of them is a heal and they don't need healing, whether they've just wasted a card. If we want to put more complicated, I'm happy for more complicated logic. But I feel like that'd be more work for you.
Not necessarily, because if you think about it, you have player character, right? Who draws a number of cards. Okay.
Yeah.
And those cards themselves are classes that have specific status effects, powers, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So think of the boss as just a character class that has more card selection.
Yeah, so you have to kind of so you would say the boss would still have mana and the cards would have mana costs.
Yeah.
But But then based on some kind of logic, so if boss is 50% health plus has heal card, use heal card.
Yeah,
Something like that.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, something like an AI for that. I mean, maybe make it smart enough to say, maybe the boss does have this 7-cost card in the deck.
Yeah.
And they know it. They know they haven't seen it yet. That's where it's going to get more complicated. But they know they haven't seen it yet.
I think for bosses, because again, so if you're doing this purely based on card-based AI, which is kind of where my thought logic is coming from, and then we can just make it cleaner because we have computers now. So you can get to a point where it's basically like boss phases, right? Boss is now at 50% health. Boss now shuffles in 5 extra cards. 5 extra cards do more damage.
Okay.
Add them to it, and then possibly you remove, like if they've got down to 50%, maybe you remove the healing cards, because we're then saying it depends on the boss, right? And this is why I'd have to start designing bosses, I think, because it depends on the boss. I think if you get a boss that is all about, basically they get angry, and if somebody's angry, they're not going to heal, right? They're just going to attack. So we're saying they're going to hit you harder, so you've got to kill them quickly. And if we say the logic there is, but they're also going to heal all the time, that's just going to piss people off, right?
Yes.
Whereas a boss who is just going to heal, and you have to put out X number of damage to beat its heal, that's a boss fight. It may take a while, but that's a boss fight you can learn and fight your way through.
Yeah, like for example, the boss fight. There's a boss fight. Say for example, he puts, this is again cross obelisk.
Yeah.
He puts flame on you, the big flamey guy. He puts flame on you, and then eventually he heals.
Yes.
But if you know that's a possibility that the boss can do that, obviously not going to know in the first turn, the first time you play, say the second time you play.
Yeah.
You can prepare your cards. Say for example, Restore Comp be able to modify cards, right?
Yep.
So you modify your cards so that, I don't know, garlic, I don't know. It causes you to heal 50% less, or maybe not be able to be healed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Then, even the boss is going to play the card regardless, right? Because he thinks that hey, I need to be healed. I'm going to try to play that card.
Yeah.
But they can't, because that affects on them. I mean, I don't think I would put that much AI into it, because that's going to be way too difficult to do.
Yeah, no, but I think as long as we've got, because like with that one on Across the Obelisk, when he's going to do his heal, because it's 3 turns after he puts the fire on you. I forget the numbers, but when it's coming. What I like about what we're trying to do is that you wouldn't necessarily know when the heal is going to come, because it is based on it's going to come soon, because he's probably only got X number of cards, and once you've played it enough, he's only going to have that number of options, right? And okay, he's played all of these, he's only got 2 left, the heal has got to be coming soon.
I like that. I like that effect, because it gives you, as the player, not necessarily just having to know your deck, right?
You have to know the enemy deck. Yeah.
You have to also know the enemy's deck as well.
And the only way to know that deck is to play against it and probably lose against it a number of times.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I think that works. All right. So what I will do then is I will try and, I think first of all, I'm going to try and work on the character of the Victoria Sponge, and therefore how he would work as a boss.
Okay.
And then I will work on the basic cards, damage, barrier, and healing. And how they would work, and then 1 armor set.
I mean, that's probably sufficient to get rolling to start off with.
Yeah, and then I think we can take it from there and play around with ideas.
Yeah, I'll look at the framework, poke around on it. I don't think that framework's going to work. I'll probably have to write my own custom one. But,
okay.
It's fine. It's not a big thing. It'll take a little bit more time, but that's fine. I can borrow heavily from existing code, because no developer ever does that. No developer ever Googles the answer or asks ChatGPT how to do it. We never do that. Anyways, I can go down that approach and get like a good idea, and it'll probably be like I may have to create like a separate program that's more like a UI for you to kind of run in and say, these are the status effects. What status effects do we have?
Yeah.
If you want to add a status effects, add a status effects, and what it does here. And then I'll have to probably export that out as a JSON that I can import back into my application and read basically the actual executable code. So that should be fine.
Okay.
So it gives you the ability to stream it if you wanted to and have discussions with chat. If you say, hey, you know, what's a card idea?
I'll probably stream the trying to come up with a character of a Victoria Sponge as well.
Yeah.
Because why not? I'm looking for different things to stream, so why not? And then we could take it from there. Okay, no, I think that's good.
I did not actually mean to take all your time today to do
Hey,
this discussion.
it's fine. I didn't have anything planned. This worked out really well. So that's good. This is probably going to be my last stream of the year, though, chat. Unless I randomly pop up drunk on New Year's Eve, which is a possibility. But that is also going to do it. So I hope everyone has enjoyed. I hope everyone has a wonderful new year. And I will see you all when I see you all. And it won't be Overwatch 2, unless I'm drunk on New Year's Eve, then it will be. Have a good one, everybody.